What's up, guys? It is Modern Craftsman Monday.
I gotta learn John's voice. Monday. Yeah, I don't know.
He's got a deep voice.
Does he?
I think so.
I'm not good at voice
Mine's
impersonations.
I feel like mine's very middle tone and kind of
goes in the higher, a little every now and then.
Me?
Yeah.
You talking about mine? Yeah. I feel like I talk with my nose a lot.
Yeah. It's funny. Everyone who listens to their voice, a lot of people on the podcast say that they hate their, like, I don't know anyone who says, I love my voice. And most people hear the podcast like, I hate listening to myself talk.
I don't hate it. I just think it's funny. Like, I forget. I read something. It's like the whole reason you don't hear yourself the way other people hear you is because while you're talking, your ears are vibrating.
Could be.
Something like that. Well, this week we have Jim. No.
Jeff.
Not Jim. Jeff.
Not Jim.
I'm reading your name. Jeff Himstedt. You guys know him as J.Him on Instagram. We talk about, he was on the podcast.
I can't believe that was 4 years ago.
That's crazy. That's 4 years ago.
That's insane.
And, he was working part-time, and we talk about him transitioning into full-time, and we talk specifically about what it takes to make that move, to actually go off on your own, what it truly takes. And then we take a wild left turn into mental health. And, for him, what social media did, basically brought to his life in a negative fashion, and how he used his religion to get things back on track. I think you guys will enjoy this one.
Yeah, it was a good conversation. All of this was news to me. I'm not on the up and up on all the whole Instagram scene and stories and all that stuff. But it was good to see. He made some big life changes and has a different outlook. Not working quite as much. I remember when he was still, I guess, in the military, and he was just doing this on the side, that he would basically get home from work and then just go out in the shop and work till 12, 1.
Round the clock.
Yeah, and then start back over and go to his day job and then pick back up just over and over again. I feel like he kind of carried that into the work habits into his self-employed life for a couple of years, but definitely made a substantial shift over the past year, I guess he said. Which is cool. It's good to see. I'm happy for him.
Guys, this podcast is brought to you by Duration Moulding and Millwork. When it comes to high-quality beveled siding, look no further than Duration. In addition to 6 popular standard profiles, Duration can provide virtually any profile with either a smooth or a wood grain face. No other material out there provides you 16-foot lengths, no clearance restrictions or gapping requirements, 70% recycled content, and a look that's so authentic it's regularly used in an historical sensitive install. To learn more about Duration Polyash products, please visit their website at durationmillwork.com. What are you drinking?
Soda.
I got
Strawberry smoothie?
Dude, it's a blackberry.
Blackberry. I got a little coffee one.
There's a little coffee spot right upstairs. I know that because every time they try and wash the floors, they have a leak.
No.
It pours down into our cabinet shop. It's a little known fact that, so we have to cover everything at night.
Why don't you fix it?
Dude, it just goes, like the other day, their ice maker, the hose came off, so it was just dripping like above the chop saws.
Wonderful.
We're like, can we get that fixed? And you go up there and they could care less. But they make a killer smoothie.
That'd be dangerous. Below a coffee shop.
Yeah, I don't want to be next to a coffee shop.
I had my first nitro cold brew yesterday. I usually just
Yesterday?
Yeah, well,
Where have you been?
I always get the iced coffee. Just, I don't know what I want. Well, Heather came home. She's like, I got you one of the nitro. I'm like, all right, I'll give it a shot. I was like, why is it so small? I was like, get the big one. She goes, oh, no. Oh, man. It almost makes my brain go too fast. It was bad.
Right?
We
it's
should have had
so
you on
good.
the podcast yesterday.
Oh,
It's
man,
so delicious.
I was buzzing yesterday. Yesterday was a bad one.
I bought, because I'm a big fan of The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, I bought his energy drinks to try it.
Of course.
Yeah. So I had him shipped to the shop. And we had...
Just make sure that Doug notes this should be the teaser for the podcast.
He'll know right away. But I haven't drank an energy drink in since I was like in high school. And I was like, whatever, it's all natural. It's supposed to be
Right.
healthy.
Yeah.
And it's like, probably not.
You could
And I
smell
drank
colors
one. And,
afterwards.
dude, I felt my toes like
Right.
pulsing. I was
Why's
like,
why's your one eyebrow keep going up like that?
it's probably.
I drink usually one energy drink a day. In the winter, I'll drink coffee all day long, but I try to get one energy drink a day, and I've been on a water kick, and that's given me more energy than anything.
Dude, I love when you call me out when I used to talk about how much water I don't even remember that.
Oh, that was a long time ago.
You were like, oh, I've been following Nick ever since he told everyone how much water to drink every day. I'm like, why was I telling people that?
When Nick preached water and had hair on the top of his forehead, that's when I started following. Let's get that one out of the way.
I do not remember.
You're gonna look good, Nick. I'm telling you,
Dude, I
You're
went
gonna
to a
look
hair
good.
guy. I went to a hair guy. Well, first off,
You
TikTok
need to go
has
to a
the bald.
different hair guy. Find a new hair.
TikTok has the bald filter, which I've definitely tried it out. And I was like, all right, I could pull this off. But I went to the hair guy because I was like, I feel like I'm losing my hair. He goes, nope, this is just how your hair is. He's like,
Yeah,
that's all.
not there. That's how
it hasn't receded any more than it
Oh,
has.
come on.
I know.
It's
so
okay,
I'm-
man. It's all
I
right.
gotta go. I gotta
Nick
find
does the same
another
thing
guy.
he does with like water leaks. Trace it out with a pencil and
Yeah.
make sure it doesn't
Yeah.
grow. It hasn't gone
I
any
take one of
further
those
back.
pictures every day, just like
Moving
just
up.
like slowly going away.
It's all right. You look good.
You know, I think it's just the camera.
Yeah, it's got to be.
It's the angle of the camera.
Got to be.
I have the same
What if I
problem.
like that? You know?
I just got my hair cut.
How did it go today? Or this time?
So I walk in. Well, it's not really that good, to be honest. I mean, it's better than the past few.
Did you talk to him?
A little, but like the first thing I walk in, he's like, "What were you doing? Painting today?" And I was like, "Fuck off."
What, do you hate
it's
that more than when people say, "Where do you get your tats?"
about equal.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
It's like I always have paint or something on me, and it's like everyone's go-to. What are you painting today?
Right.
And that's your conversation starter.
Yeah. Or it's how's business?
Yeah,
Always.
exactly.
How's business? I'm like, and I'll catch myself asking other guys that too. I'm like, I hate when people ask me that. Like, you just stand there for a second, and you're like,
Or when you go to a party and it's
Yeah.
like, hey, so what do you do for a living?
yeah, I know.
I'm a financial advisor. Oh, cool. So I don't have any more questions.
I don't even do that.
I got
I don't even
nothing.
ask anybody anything.
Well,
I
I
hate
think
it.
you were the one that mentioned it. Is like, I feel like you brought up a conversation about how you didn't want to be the builder or the contractor,
That was on a podcast a while back.
and it's like you kind of gave up on it.
See, I like it. I'm proud to say what I do, but I
Totally.
just people that we're standing there like, like sip beer. How's business? I'm like, good. Business is good. And then they're like, all right.
You busy?
I mean, what are you
Yeah,
really
I'm
gonna
busy.
tell
You
people
busy?
though? Like,
Yeah.
no, it's shitty. I'm up to my neck in debt.
Just paid my quarterlies and
Customers suck.
debating and ending it all.
I think it's the same as asking a kid how's school.
Yeah.
How's school?
Every day. How's school?
Yeah.
I don't
It's like, it's what
That's
you
what
thought
I-
it was.
Yeah.
Like, joke's on you, kid, because I really don't care either way. I just
Yeah.
trying to fill the awkward silence as I thumb through Instagram here. It's very awkward.
I ask Marley all the time, how was school? It was good. What'd you do? I don't know.
I don't remember.
Like, you don't remember anything? She goes, nope. Oh, we our caterpillars turned into butterflies. I was like, all right. She's like, that was it though. We didn't do anything else. And I think I took a rest. I don't remember if I fell asleep though.
God, you kid.
I get more information out of my buddy's friends when I'm driving to the hockey or practice. I'm like, hey, there you go.
Good job, Tyler.
It's like, hey, what's
a
the
caterpillar.
cafeteria like? And then they just start going motor mouth in the back, like so and so sits with the girls. This happens, and I'm like, this is what I need.
The
I need
friends are
this.
fun to talk to. Like Landon's friends, they helped me move the shop. Like I'd pile all these like 14, 15-year-olds in my truck. I'm like, all right, let's go. And we just haul loads every night. And they're the ones that are fun to talk to because they don't give a shit either way. They'll talk to you about everything. But then they start talking to their dad and they're like, they just don't
Yeah.
say anything.
Clam
Maybe
up.
that
the same
should be
as,
the
like, at
podcast
practice.
teaser. I haul a bunch of 14,
Yeah, I knew that
15-year-olds
was
in my truck every weekend.
We just drive. Well, it's funny because I took them downtown where my old shop was. So their dad was following them on Life 360 and called him. He's like, where are you at? Like, we're downtown in the hood. And he's like, I'm with Jeff. He's like, what are you doing? He's like, moving a shop. He's like, oh, I didn't know what you were up to. But I was like, yeah, you probably saw his son going down to Adams Street and about a panic attack.
It's funny because we were at Selby's softball game, and there's kids who are older. So she's in second grade, and then there's kids who are 10, 11, 12 there who are older siblings. And I was there last week, and I had Polly with me, and this girl from the other team who was probably like 12 came over, and I was standing completely by myself and started talking to me. And she was like super sweet, but the whole time I'm just like, this has got to look so weird. Like so weird right now.
Why we got to think that?
Yeah, like I'm just by myself.
I know exactly what you mean, man. I know exactly what you mean. It's a strange feeling.
Yeah, and then finally, she was so nice and very. I feel like kids 12 years old most kids wouldn't have a conversation with an adult like that. And the whole time, I just couldn't even. I was just like, I just kind of can't wait for you to leave. Yeah, exactly.
Chris Hansen walks in with just a bunch of printouts. You're like, oh gosh, here it goes. Have a seat.
Like, see you later.
Oh, that's awesome. Kids are cool, man.
Yeah, but then they get to 8th grade and you coach lacrosse, and I'm like, you start walking with them down the lacrosse field, and you're like, I don't want to have any involvement with these conversations.
Yeah.
I start getting my distance where I'm like, what are you? But I have fun with it. Like when girls show up to the games.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, whose bird is that?
Yeah.
Anybody? Like on the sideline? Like who's got an audience?
You're going to prison.
Oh.
No, it gets better. It gets better with age. Then they land and they're 15. So all of his friends, you hear them in the basement. You're like, guys, like I don't want to hear half the stuff you're talking about. That's like guilty by association.
Exactly.
I don't need to be around it. I don't want to hear about it. It gets a little more interesting.
So last time you were on, that was in like the very beginning, right?
Yeah. It was like a year before I went full time.
It's the garage.
Yeah. Well, I had the shop then. So I had my garage. That's where I started, was my garage. And I built the shop behind it, which was a garage.
Yeah.
So I knew I was leaving. I think I had 6 months or a year to go until I was full time. And I just went back. That was 2017 when Johnny was texting about the podcast. So yeah, that was right at just starting to think about going full time and losing sleep and all that good stuff.
That's crazy.
It's nuts, man.
Time stamping it like that.
That was 2017.
Yeah, that was his message. He goes, "We still good for June 14th," is when he sent it. So somewhere around there. And that was crazy. Modern Craftsman wasn't. You guys probably didn't have 20 episodes then. I mean, it was. Yeah. That was a long time ago.
Yeah, we were really scraping for guests at that point.
You were, yeah, because I think I got put off, and finally, like, damn it, like, this is the only guy.
Well, that had nothing to do with you. That had everything to do with us. Yeah. We were not structured.
It's all good. I can take it.
So, I mean, looking back at, obviously leaving your full-time job, I'm sure if anyone hasn't listened to that episode, what were some of your biggest concerns?
I knew the money month to month was always there because I worked. I'm not gonna like recap the whole episode, but I worked 5 years in my shop at night and the weekends, so I knew the income was there and I could make it. But I was more worried about the benefits and the stability of it. Obviously leaving at a really good job, that awesome benefits and steady paycheck. So obviously, I think like everyone that goes full time, mostly money and benefits was my biggest scare. But I knew I could get the work. Making money's never really been hard just because I've always went for it and made it. Mm-hmm. But it was just the consistent knowing that check's going to be there every 2 weeks. That's the scary part. Just breaking that nest egg. Yeah, that was probably the biggest fear of mine, is not having that consistency, I guess.
Looking back, do you feel that fear was warranted?
Yeah, and I learned after jumping and looking back, you realize there's never a right time. Like I was lucky enough to where I had my 12-year, my enlistment was up, so I had to. Like I think if I was in that position to where I could have done that forever, I don't think I would have ever jumped. I don't think I mentally could have made it. Like if anyone asks, I'm fine, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go full time. I don't know how people make that jump without being pushed. Like basically this is it. This is your last date out here unless you re-enlist. So without that, I honestly don't think I could have made that jump, on my own terms. But yeah, as far as zero regret for anything so far, knock on wood.
I think it's similar to having kids. I think I've said that before, but I remember when we were discussing potentially having kids, and like we almost had a financial number. If we had this in savings, we'd be able to swing it. We'd be good. And then look, like you just end up, it happens, and then looking back, that like there was nothing quantitative about having a child. Like you make it work after the fact.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Like nothing that you put in place readies and prepares you for that. And it's just like, if you have the personality type to not be a loser and be successful and step up to the plate, it's going to work.
Right. Yeah. And you can almost see the guys that, because everyone asks that, how did you know? I'm wanting to go, like, the DM is always full of that. I'm like, you never know. Like, there's never a right time. Like, I believed in myself, and that without that, how many businesses fail? Like, how many dudes in central Illinois are building furniture for a living? Like, not that many, but it takes a special breed of people to do this. Like, and I don't say that to say that I am, but you can't just open up, I've seen guys that start companies and all they give a crap about is their t-shirt design, the sign on the door, like all this branding crap. And I'm like, that wasn't even on my brain for the first 4 years. Like, I did not care. I just wanted to make some money and see if I could do it. That was my main goal. But these guys start backwards, and you almost want to wring their neck and say something to them, but at the same time, you're like, figure it out, man. Like, sink or swim, you'll figure it out on your own. But it's not easy, and I'm trying to answer these questions how I want to answer them, not how I think they should be answered. Because I catch myself doing that. People are like, how's business for yourself? And I always want to say, oh, it's stressful, man. Like, I don't know. But it's great. Like, it's awesome because I actually work for it.
Do you think people start their businesses that, like you said, that they're getting T-shirts and the branding and the sign on the door? Do you think that a lot of people start their business for that?
Yeah,
like that's why they do it, and that's
down.
Not why it's the first thing that gets done.
Hands down, man. And it irritates the hell out of me. Like, branding's cool. I mean, guys get on Instagram and you see all this stuff. It's awesome, but it don't mean shit. It means nothing. Yeah, it's cool to brand your company when you're something worth branding. But these guys that are just like spending all this time and effort and like energy, like all my energy went to working all night and it went to working all weekend. And I didn't even think about a logo. I could care less about that back in the day. Now, absolutely. I love having my logo on stuff because I feel like it's got some weight. I feel like I've actually earned that. But you see these guys start up and they care about their image more than they care about their work. And it just drives me up the wall. And you can almost sit back and I don't want to say laugh at them, but like, I feel like I can laugh when I've worked my ass off this hard. And like, you see these guys just come in and they just want all the cool stuff and the, people working for them right off the bat. I'm like, man, like, you just tell their priorities are completely backwards.
Well, I mean, shit, we wrote the script for them. And by posting what we post and doing, not just us, but just in general, like this, the first round of social media people were the coolest because they pass on everything. And it kind of made this group of people not value that end of it, but see that you could be showcased in a way. You can make a brand without having anything to back it up yet.
Yeah.
And I get it. It happens. But I mean, I think we pushed a lot of people to get their shirts done and all that stuff. For people that were brands that were wearing T-shirts and not having their trucks lettered, and they could get a better price tag for what they were doing on a daily basis by simply doing that. I mean, Tyler and Nick did that straight up. That's what pushed me to get my old company to get cool logos and stuff like that, because it wasn't that hard. But so many days it gets clouded by all the other BS and stress and reality of running a business gets caught up. And like, people are always like, oh, I post this. I'm like, dude, the first 15 years of my career, I never took the before photo.
Right.
Never. I just was always so eager to get started, make a name on that job.
Yeah.
And that you'd maybe get a photo of something like at the beginning and it's like totally demoed and not cleaned up. And it's just a different mindset now.
Yeah. And it's totally important. Like, I don't want to diminish branding because obviously all four of us here know how important it is, but it shouldn't be your first line of defense. I mean, your first line of defense is work. And something else, I thought all week about what I wanted to talk about. And obviously the first thing to any business is hard work. Now, everyone says that, but I've seen it. I've seen that, my dad didn't teach me anything about woodworking or nothing. And he was never the type to, like, even on the farm, like, this is how you do it. Like, there was none of that teaching, but the one thing I learned from him was working hard by just watching and doing that. So instead of just saying, oh, hard work's only, I know for a fact that hard work will pay off. Like, that's all you really need is just to work hard. You can always fall back on that. Like, I wasn't taught things. Didn't show me how to do it. But just the fact that I got to watch him work so hard has paid over, 1,000 times over in my life for what I do now. So there's just no substitute, whether you got a cool brand or in the beginning, there's no substitute for just working. I mean, that's it. There's nothing else that you can possibly do.
And I think you said it, and I just want to touch on it. It's like you're not discrediting how important the branding is.
No, because it is.
It's not. You're looking at it as it shouldn't be your first line of defense, but that also doesn't mean it doesn't have to be right when you start off. It's more about, like, you're not going to win by having a good brand. You're going to win by working really hard. And
it shouldn't be your main focus. I guess it shouldn't be you shouldn't start a company just for the brand. You start brand, I don't know.
I mean, it shouldn't be your main focus, but it should be equal, or it should never outweigh the work performance.
I think that initial branding also it's more so about having integrity for your brand, for your company, for your customers, reinvesting in your own business to legitimize yourself more so than driving business your way. I think that initially your focus should be getting the customer base, building the portfolio, landing the jobs, actually doing the work and doing the best job that you can, busting your butt. And then when it starts working out, then you need to start reinvesting in yourself because you have a lot of customers who are investing in you. And I think that legitimizing that brand and getting the truck lettered and getting the T-shirts made and taking some of that money that you're making and dumping it back in, even nice tools, if it's a trailer, and just kind of cleaning up your act and having some respect for yourself and for the industry is so important with the branding aspect. It's not just, hey, this is going to get me more jobs, or this is going to get me more leads, or this is going to get me in with the architect or the designer that I want, because I think that it is so important for your work to be the first and foremost as to why you're getting hired. I think branding may get your foot in the door with certain opportunities, but if you're not executing the work or fulfilling that end of the deal, you could be the most well-branded carpenter in the world. I'm not going to hire you again.
They've got to be pretty even. You got to have that good branding, but you have to have something to back it up. So if your first task on starting a company is just coming up with the best logo you can, I'm not saying logos aren't important, but your mindset should be, what's the best product I can make first? Like, I don't know. I guess I just quote unquote established myself before any of that. I was simply working to get a picture of something to sell it, and that's all I cared about. And then all of a sudden I was like, maybe I need to separate me from my work, actually make J.Him Woodworking something and then make me something else, trying to make its own identity. But, I don't know. Maybe I was just long spiel on branding that we've probably talked about 1,000 times, but I just, you see guys start up and it's almost irritating to watch.
I always wonder if, depending on your business, I think I can equate it to restaurants where you need foot traffic and you need a large turnover and a volume of work, where a lot of us who are kind of owner operators don't necessarily need that influx of work. But I think personally, if I was looking up a company to go grab dinner from, where it's like I only have to invest in them once and it's a very low risk, that their brand could easily sell me on going to their restaurant. More so,
right? You buy like bottles of wine based on the label.
Yeah. So like more so
than price.
Than having like an amazing meal. But then the amazing meal is what's going to bring me back over and over and over again. At that point, like, I don't care what your restaurant looks like or what your brand's like, but like the atmosphere and the food is going to bring me back, and maybe your brand gets me there in the first place.
Right. Exactly. No, it's important. I mean, I'm not going to diminish having a good brand and good, marketing. Obviously not. But I don't know. Right out the gate, just kind of, maybe it's just one of my pet peeves.
I'm fascinated by it because Nick and I have talked about it, and I know the individual who listens to this podcast that there's a company in our area that I've been watching this for a long time. Like, I watched every magazine, who gets the inside cover, whatever, and there was a company that kind of came out of nowhere. Like, I've seen companies branch off of other companies that were a great PM, and they went off and did their own thing, and I've had the stories where a client approached them and said, no, I want you to run this job. not that company they work for. And they've started their own companies like Youngblood, a couple others. And there was one company that literally, I talked to him. I've talked to him, and I will have him on the podcast. He's straight out. I was like, how'd you do it? I'm like, you came out of nowhere. There was no work. He's like, I paid $1 million. What, Nick, was it $1 million over 2 years on
I forget
on
the
marketing?
numbers. Yeah.
And it put him, like, he's like, I looked at the research. I sat around and before I started my company and saw the upper echelon in Massachusetts, there was probably 7 companies. But the kind of next tier down, there might be 150 contractors and builders. So he's like, how do I get to that upper echelon? And he was in the inside cover of every magazine, still is. And then it was a matter of the work came. A huge amount of work came his way that was all qualified leads. So then it was, how do I get the right team in place to then run those products? So there is a whole nother kind of the reverse of what we just talked about.
Right. Oh,
that
yeah.
is possible if you have the money to put up to then try and get to that upper echelon. And
Yeah.
I'd look at it like, I'll wait 10 years to get there.
Right.
That dude just bought his way into it in 2.
Yeah. No, and that's probably a much, much bigger operation than, I'm thinking start a small business, whether it's woodworking or a coffee shop, you know what I mean? Like there's guys that it's just, that's not possible. They have to just start working. But yeah, there's definitely ways to you can buy your way into anything you want. I mean, if you want to do it that way.
To be clear, you're talking about Nick or somebody else?
No, Nick and I have talked about this person.
No.
I didn't have $1 million. I spent every dollar I had, but
I want
not
to know
really.
who's paying that $1 million, because I mean, obviously your customers are, but think about the overhead when you're starting a business where that's all coming out of pocket to basically.
It was. I asked him. It was all out of pocket. He had money from his previous business that he'd done really well at. So it was, because we were talking, and I was like, dude, how's this work?
Yeah, because what's your overhead on your first job if you just dumped $1 million into your business with no work? I'm gonna try and get $500,000 of this paid for on this first job.
It's like
and then
taking
we'll sort it out
loan,
from there.
though.
Yeah.
It's like he took $1 million loan on himself.
Yeah. I was talking to Dad about people starting business, going into debt. I said, I hate debt. I said, the only thing I lose sleep about is like if I owe debt to anybody. He goes, you would have made a very good farmer. I said, oh, no, I couldn't do it. There's no way. I said, I don't know how they just get used to it. He goes, it's part of life. I was like, man, I hate it with a passion. He goes, that's like I said, I hate spending money and I hate debt. He goes, that's like getting upset for putting gas in your truck. I said, I do. I said, I don't like spending money on gas for my truck. He just started laughing. He's like, man, he goes, you wouldn't have made it farming. I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't have.
It's true. All their equipment and everything else that they need, where it's like I have to depend on this to recoup those costs.
Oh, nah, I don't like that. I don't like spending money.
I was similar in the beginning. It's like everything I did, I just slowly bought, over and over. Like bought the tools I needed and grew the company. It was like this side thing until I never borrowed money.
Right.
And now I'm at a point in my career where it's like I'm looking to borrow money to be able to kind of scale the business the way I want.
Yeah.
And whether that's for a property to build or there's other other things within that, but I start realizing that to what John just said, it's like you can take the 10-year approach of kind of go through the motion and figure out like how I'm going to get to that inside cover in 10 years, or you can the other guy buy it, spend the $1 million in marketing, get that inside cover immediately and jumpstart. And I feel like for me, I'm trying to do something right in between that, where it's like I really don't want to be patient. I don't want to wait for me to have all the dollars I need. I don't want to wait for me to do incrementally better projects. I want to be aggressive and move as fast as I can to end up in the position that I want to be in now.
Right. Exactly.
And I think going back to something you said in the beginning, and taking that risk of starting your own business, or what Tyler said, like having kids, there's never a right time. I feel like and something I've been thinking about a lot, and I alluded to it on the last podcast about being in another part of the country, opening a second division, or even splitting my time living somewhere else. It's my wife and I started talking about it. It's like we're so it's ingrained in us that we have to do certain things and we can't fail at them.
Yeah.
It's like you can't start a business unless you know you're not going to fail.
Right.
You can't do that because what happens if you go bankrupt? What happens if you have I have 15 people working for me? Like, what happens if you got a business and they don't have a job? It's like, at the end of the day, they're all going to find another job.
Yeah.
They're all going to find another job. At the end of the day, if I get sued for everything I have, it's like I still have my family.
Right.
It's like it's not taking the physical life away from me. And I feel like so many of our decisions, in this conversation Meg and I had, it's like so many of these decisions are made based on like worst case scenario.
Based on
where it's
fear,
like
right?
Based on fear. And it's like, best case scenario is probably pretty unlikely. Worst case scenario is also probably pretty unlikely. You're going to end up somewhere in the middle where it's like, take the risk, go start the business. And, yes, I'm not saying that everyone should do that, but I don't think that fear should be what we're constantly making our decisions based on, because you end up living with regret. And it's like, good.
And do you think it's straight up fear, or do you think it's a fear of failure? Like people don't want to be known? Because there's, how many guys out there have bankrupted companies but have like the one that's stuck. And now
right. and don't care about the failure.
And they're so open about it. They're like, oh, that one bankrupt, and I think the fear of failing. I mean, not even just in business, just in everything. Like people don't
life.
Yeah, exactly.
Everything. I don't want to raise an asshole kid. Like, what happens if I can't have kids? I can't dedicate time to them. There's so many things that we worry about.
Yep.
And I think. And it's very, because after I said that on the podcast, 2 weeks ago, people reached out and was like, I didn't know you wanted to start another division or live in a different part of the country. Like, I don't know if I do, but I don't want the mindset of the fact that I can't do that because what happens if, what I've built here fails, or or the guys that are in the other room right now feel as though I've stepped away and walked away from them. Ultimately these decisions need to be made for what I feel as though is best for me.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to do that at the expense of someone else.
Right.
But I also don't want to feel limited in the sense that, I don't want to do this because what happens if, I put Ken in a bad spot and he doesn't have a job. It's like, the reality is he's probably going to start his own shop or go work for someone else.
Right. Yeah. And you'll be laying there, on your deathbed, wishing you could have done it.
But hey, I wonder what would have happened if I ended up starting that division in South Carolina.
And that's what I always told everyone. They're like, hey, you only have like a few years till retirement. Like, you can retire, I'm like, yeah, but okay, I retire, and then a week later I die. Like, what good does that do me? Like, I can tell you with full honesty, if I die right now, my biggest fear, leaving my kids when they're little. If I died today, I'm happy. I did exactly what I want to do for the past 2 years and some change. I've been a better man. I've been a happier man. I can honestly say that right now, and I have never been able to say that in my life. Like, there were so many things that, like, of course, I'd love to do more with J.Him Woodworking. I'd love to do more, as a business. But right now, if I died, I'm happy. Like, I could honestly say, laying there, I could say I'm dying a happy man. Like, I'm ready to go. And I could not say that 2 years ago. And I didn't realize how unhappy I was. Like, I knew I didn't like my job, but I didn't realize I wasn't happy until it was gone. And I was a whole new man. Like, as soon as I went full time, like, even my wife, she's like, I don't know what it was. And I said, I didn't realize how much it was stealing from me. It was stealing so much happiness. And that's why I always say, like, the stress of running a business, being free and being able to make my own decisions in life are worth every single stress, worry I have, which isn't much. I honestly don't have much to worry about. I don't have much stress. I cause a lot of it myself. Mm-hmm. But honestly, for this, J.Him Woodworking is not big. It's me and like guys that I can just find come work from time to time. It's not like I have headaches like a big company. So I create a lot of my own stress, but it's worth 10 times over,
and I think
happiness that it gives me.
And it's funny because when I started my company, it was the same way. I felt, this sense of freedom, and I could kind of do what I wanted to do and take on jobs that I wanted to take. And we scaled quickly. Yeah. And we were up to a little over 20 people. And it was at that point that I started realizing how stressed out I was. And, and it was getting like losing apparently my forehead hair. But, it got to a point where I remember
pretty stressed out.
I remember sitting at the kitchen island table with Meg, and she's like, "You're all right?" I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And she's like, "What's going on?" And I was just like, I'm realizing that I am literally robbing from you and the kids.
Yeah. Amen.
In order for me to keep these guys that don't really see the same vision I have, keep them employed.
Yeah.
And it was, and she was like, she looked at me, she goes, "Haven't I been telling you that?" I'm like, "You probably."
But they could.
But it didn't click with me.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. And it's like, and I was fearful of letting guys go because I didn't, what if they can't find a job? Like, what if I ruin their family? But the reality, I let them go. They had a job 5 days later,
right?
If not sooner.
And you lost sleep over it.
And I lost sleep over it, and it's like, and once it happened, it's like I could breathe.
Yeah.
And I was like, I was putting myself in a position that that's not what I set out to do. I have this vision. I want to build this company. I want the people that are around me to believe in it and have the same vision and believe that I'm fucking crazy and that they want to be fucking crazy with me.
Right. Yeah. But instead you're running yourself to the dirt and not enjoying it.
Right.
Yeah. No, I get it.
So I guess, go ahead.
No, you. No, you. You.
Nope, I'm good.
I vote John.
Nope.
John?
I'm ready to text. Sorry, go on.
I was going to ask, Jeff, are you the type of person that won't take out like an auto loan? Where you're going to pay for it in full?
Oh, if I can pay for it in full, I'll pay for it in full. It was like we had a pretty good job last year. And I like to stuff away.
Yeah.
I like to have money away. I'd rather save it. That way it takes a lot easier on me and my mental health when I know there's plenty of money in the bank and I don't have to worry about it. But Heather, she runs a bank, so she's like, "No, we're just paying off all these loans. We're just going to pay everything off." So that was kind of nice because it opened up monthly payments. We paid a truck off, and we paid off pretty much all of our debt, paid off her car. So that was nice. So I see the flip side of both. But yeah, if I can pay cash, if I've got it, I'm not charging anything. I've charged very little in my life, and that way, if I ever need to walk away from this, I get to keep everything. I can sell everything, and I can keep it, and I don't have to give it all to the bank.
Yeah, a lot of people
with the shop, we got a loan, but other than that, I just don't have debt. I just refuse.
A lot of people,
Smart.
It is. So there's the two thought processes where the two school of thoughts where don't buy. You truly can't buy something that you can't afford. You're not buying things you can't afford if you can't pay for it outright. Which is super smart. And like my brain tells me at that point, it's like, then save until you have that money to be able to pay for it outright, and then finance it. If like the interest rate is lower than you can make on your money, even if it's a percentage point, like to leverage your money at that point. I think so many people, and it's an old school mentality where people are like, well, I don't want any sort of debt. I don't want to take loans. I want to pay for everything in cash, which is cool. But like, it's also silly to spend all of your liquid or use up all your liquidity on a low interest loan, like an auto loan right now, where you can get for so cheap that it's like a 2% auto loan where you could make 8% on your money, right? And like just make money on that. But the extreme opposite end of the spectrum is where people are over leveraging themselves, and now they're buying a truck that's an $80,000 truck because it's only $1,000 a month. Where like you couldn't afford an $80,000. Like you shouldn't be buying an $80,000. You can afford $1,000 a month, but you can't afford an $80,000 truck.
And if they had that same $80,000 in their hand, I guarantee you they wouldn't hand that over for that same truck.
Exactly.
Like, they just don't see it. It's like when Heather just bought a new car, and we put a really good down payment down, but we still had to finance several months. And they had it stretched out way far. She goes, "No, why don't we just stretch it out like 2 years instead of, I think, the 5 they set up?" I said, "What's the percentage difference?" And they was saving a ton. And I said, just pay it off sooner. I said, get that longer loan. It's pretty much the same. I said, but the way she pays everything off, I said, you can still create that little bit of a cushion if you need it. I said, but just pay it off whenever you want. I said, but don't be tied into this, shorter loan. But if they had that same money, that same $80,000 cash, that guy would not he would not give it to him. He would
No,
say, I
exactly.
could probably put this on my house, or I could probably invest this in something to make more money, not an $80,000 truck, and it just drives me up the wall.
Where you should be looking at it from multiple points of view. It's the same. It's the same thing right now as people buying houses. Like, yeah, so you can afford the monthly payment on $1 million house, but like, really, are you going to be able to afford to renovate that house the way you should? Are you going to be able to afford to maintain that house the way you should? Are you going to be able to afford the upkeep and that, like? So yeah, you can make those monthly payments happen right now, but are you going to be house poor? Does that make the most sense? Like, when your car breaks down, you're going to be able to afford a new car, where you just need to be looking at it from multiple angles than just like, I can afford it entirely or I can afford it monthly. There's a lot more that goes into it. And especially from a business perspective, like, there's a lot of situations where it makes sense to borrow money for your business.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Because it's like, to put that money out there cash and put yourself at risk where you could make 8% on your money and you're only paying 2% on the loan would be silly.
Yeah. So I was Heather. I was like, should we, like, if I buy a big machine or a tool or a big wood, I said, should we finance this and just keep? She's like, no, just pay cash. Like, we have cash. Use the CAD. I'm like, which I don't deal with. Like, if Heather says we're good, we're good. Like, she just gets money. She's good at it. So in my mind, I'm like, if it's 0% or like 1%, she's like, no, just pay for it and be done. I'm like, all right. But she's kind of the smart one when it comes to that. Luckily, we're on the same page. We just, neither one of us like debt. You know, the shop, between buying and renting, that was always something like, I'm a pretty big advocate on renting. Like, even renting houses back in the day, I'm always like, you're not tied to it, whatever. So when we started looking at shop space, the one I was in was selling. And I don't like the fear of the unknown. So I didn't know whether my shop was there or not. And I'd rather not get a text, saying move out in a week, which ended up happening anyways. So we're looking for shops, and I looked at rentals, and this one popped up. Now, like, going back to the monthly payment's never been an issue. It was having that down payment. Like, that was the, 20% down on a shop is not, cheap. So we were at the point where I had a really good down payment for shop, and that having that much at once just never really happens. I mean, that was a pretty good chunk of change, and that's why I said, well, let's just buy. I said, the money's there to buy it. I don't care about the monthly payment. That's always going to be there. I mean, for hopefully, I guess, knock on wood. So that was where, and I was like, then we're actually investing in property. And, rent's not bad. People always say you're not investing in something you're throwing. I mean, you are, but at the same time, you're not tied.
You're paying someone else's mortgage.
Yeah, you're not, I mean.
I hated it. I'm the reverse.
Really? But like, at the same time, if you're buying somewhere right now, you're taking out a 30-year mortgage, you're not paying your principal for like 15 years.
Yeah, do a 15 years.
But you're like paying straight interest.
Right.
So it's not like you're building equity in your house other than your down payment for those first however many years anyway, so it's not that much different.
Yeah, but if you put an extra payment, like even on your house, if you put one extra payment a year, it drops like 7 years off your mortgage.
Yeah.
One a year. I mean, it's insane. If people broke that down and actually learned how much, if you paid off, an extra payment a year, it's sickening how easy it is to pay off a house. But people stretch themselves so thin, they can't. You can't make that extra payment. Like, they just can't do it because they bought this big, stupid house they don't need.
I mean, Tyler, it's living within your means.
For sure.
That's the bottom line. Is that, yeah, you might want a different life that you see on social, but you just can't afford it. It's that simple. Like,
and your life's still going to suck when you're there anyways.
Yeah,
I know.
Because you stretch yourself.
You're still going to be shitty. You're trying to fill a void that's unfillable. Like, your life's still going to suck when you buy that nice house or that $90,000 truck. Like, it's going to feel good for about a day, and then you got to start paying on it.
It's funny. My wife and I are talking about selling our house, and Johnny, it's I'm advocating to rent.
Really?
And, just for now.
Right now.
Just to
And
get
it's
somewhere.
like, well, first off, yeah, obviously buying right now is tough, but I just look at it as this gives us an opportunity to take the money that we made on this home,
the equity,
and use it,
yeah,
and like invest it in something, whether it's in a property or whether it's something else. And she's very much of the mindset of, she wants to buy a multifamily and live in one of the units, and I think that's a smart move, but it's also an expensive move, especially right now. But it's, I go back and forth because I think, Jeff, I'm with you with the rental. It's like, it doesn't tie you to anything, and it also frees up possible cash. The flip side of it is when you do own something, if you did well on it, then you do have the equity and you have available cash there. but it's when you make a poor purchase, like Tyler's talking about, is you buy something that you're overpaying for. You'll never have equity in it because you're buying at the peak and stuff. If stuff drops, that's where it's, like you said, people aren't educating themselves into making these right decisions.
Yeah, and we did it forever. I mean, I was just talking to buddy stopped by today that I haven't seen forever, and I told him, I was like, I'm finally, like, even taking our vehicles to a mechanic. Like, I would have never done that 2 years ago. I'm like, I can fix it. I'll spend all weekend fixing it. Like, I'm at a point now where, like, we have equity in everything we own. Like, things have money. It's not just, we didn't just go pick out a car and put no money down. Like, it feels good to be able to do that and to pay those mechanic bills when you don't want to screw with it anyways. But, we've done it. I don't want to sit here and say we haven't, because we've taken car loans out that had no money down, and then you're screwed on. Like, it feels good to be in that truck for the first month, but then you realize towards the end of the loan, like, this truck's worth nothing. I can't even trade it in for what I still owe on it. So it sucks. But and you could beat people on the head telling them this, and it doesn't matter until they figure it out. Like, until they got to grow on their own. Like, you can't preach this stuff because no one listens. Like, they still want that shiny truck and that stupid house that looks like everyone else's. But smart spending with business, and then it's like buying my wife's car. It was like a $30,000, which isn't even much, but like $30,000 SUV. I'm like, but this makes me no money. Like, there's no return. Like, I'll buy a $30,000 pickup without blinking an eye. But I was like, we're buying an SUV that makes me no money. She just laughs. Like, this car dealer looks at me. He's like, what are you talking about? I was like, this makes me no money. This is a $30,000 expense. I can't. There's no.
Put it on Turo. You got to rent it out during the weekend.
It drives me up the wall. But that's just, shit's expensive, man.
Or do you lease it? You have no equity, and then you're deferring all the maintenance and all the other crap.
There's, like, Nick, like, you're probably in the position where you'd like to buy a shop, like, but you're an established big business. Like, starting out, like, you see these guys buy buildings, I'm like,
instead I bought the $80,000 pickup.
Go find a spot to rent, maybe.
Yeah, but there's a time and place. Like, I would love to have a spot that's mine.
Yeah.
And I've joked around about it for a while, and this is not the time or the market. Yeah. And I'll wait until the market turns, and I won't be compulsive. And that's a big, because I can be. Like, this Instagram ads thing has got me nailed down for, like, if I'm looking at, like, a golf T-shirt, and then it gets me, like, 75. I'm like, fine, I'll just buy it so I stop getting the ads. So I am compulsive in a way, but at the same moment.
What is a golf T-shirt?
I'm looking for polos.
Oh.
But it's like, dude, it's like, I get it. But at the same moment, it's like, to go all the way back to the beginning conversation is, yeah, I could buy into it right now and then have to fight off that payment for the next 25 years, or take it slow and bite at the right time and not have to worry about it. And I think it's just having experience and being logical about the situation and just having a plan, whether it's not written down, but just going, hey, like, when I want to buy my house right out of college, I was like, I'm not paying. I used to look at how many people in Boston, like, owned multiple buildings. And I'm like, why would they own multiple buildings? It's because it makes them money.
Right.
And I was like, so the longer I'm here, the longer I'm making money for so-and-so. So it was just trying to find the right deal. And I looked and looked and looked. The other thing is, they're all compulsive. They want to look twice. They don't. I looked for like years to find, and everyone hates it. And it's like, same with buying a car. No one wants to go through that rigmarole. So they're like, let's just do it as fast as possible. So they just give me whatever the interest payment is.
Exactly. That's like
tough.
When I moved into this shop, my uncle, he's 50s, late 50s. He goes, man, and he bought his commercial building probably 4 months before I bought mine. And he's like, here you are. He goes, you're 32 and have a building. He goes, I didn't get one until I was nearly, 55, 60. He goes, it's so good you're able to do that early. He goes, how long I've wanted one. He worked out of his garage, contractor and painter forever. He goes, it's so good that you're doing it early now. I said, I think it's just good to be in a position to be able to do it and not, I didn't stretch myself too thin. I've always worked within my means. I've always lived within my means, but it was nice to be able to, like, it's not fun giving over the cash when I asked for the down payment. Like, that wasn't fun, but no one already got that equity in it, and still fairly young. I think 32 is pretty young.
It is.
So got a long way to go on it, but we'll be here.
I can't believe you're only 32.
Young, just a young pup.
You look way younger. You look way younger.
41.
You're funny.
You're like as
You're
young
the
as
only one that can
Nick.
crack jokes on this podcast?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I thought that was in the whole thing in the beginning.
Yeah,
We went through
maybe
it.
you missed that. Maybe you missed that one. Getting your camera working.
So I think you alluded to it. You ended up moving because the house that you were in before, you were renting, and that shop behind it was part of the rental. Was that did I catch that right?
No, I was renting. So I started in my garage. I was connected to my house. Then Heather went and got pregnant, so I built a shop behind.
Heather went and got pregnant.
Yeah, whatever.
Better hope she doesn't listen to this.
Yeah. So that last time I recorded, I was still working in my shop behind the house. Well, then I moved down to a warehouse.
You're going to be back out there pretty soon.
Okay. Well, then right when we recorded that podcast, I was getting ready to go full time. So then I got a space downtown, a warehouse, and then it went up for sale. So then I moved out of the warehouse into here.
Gotcha.
So I was downtown for about a year before I bought this one.
That's right. For some reason I forgot.
It looked about the same. I mean, it was bigger. The actual workshop was, I don't know, 400 square foot bigger, but it was all the same. It was like white walls and everything was set up exactly the same. So a lot of people didn't even know I moved, but it was inside of a huge warehouse. So I was able to park stuff inside and have a lot of storage.
Right.
But that was about a year, if that. Then that one.
That wasn't the haunted one, right?
Yeah, that was the haunted one. Yeah.
Oh, that was the haunted one?
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. And then you bought this building.
Yep.
And bigger shop, bigger space.
Yeah. This office here, this is set up weird. They got in-floor heating, so it's kind of chopped up weird, but then they had a 30 by 55, 30 by 60 next door. It was unfinished. So that's what really sold me. It was kind of a clean slate. So we poured concrete and insulated it, got some 3-phase over there. And I really like that building over there. That's kind of what sold me on this whole property, really.
And you own the whole building? Is that right?
Yeah. There's 2 buildings here, 30 by 50s, and then there's kind of a yard out back with some smaller sheds. But we looked at a bunch. No, this was really the first one I looked at. It was closest to home, but we looked at a bunch of old warehouses, like old brick buildings, and they even put an offer on several. They never went through. Then I was like, let's go back to that one and look at it, this one here. I said, honestly, for the price, and it's efficient, it's a newer building. The guy that had it before me pretty much did everything to it, to the T. He was a real meticulous old guy, so everything was done really good. So, for efficiency-wise, I wasn't trying to heat an old brick building, and it's really the best buy I could have found. And that was back in October.
Oh, you haven't even been there a year.
No, it seems like it, but no, I think we closed in October, and the move took a lot longer than I thought. Trying to finish that building, get concrete and power in there, and I'm pretty good about orders. When I tell you, it's going to be done in July, it'll be done. Like, I'm very good about. I was so behind. Like, I'm still the last set of cabinets from last year that I have to build. I just started this week. Like, and that's the last one. Now I was able to schedule farther out. Obviously once we started moving, but it threw me off a lot more than I thought it would. Just takes a lot of work.
What were you doing as far as like supplementing income at that point, being that you were working so much, not working on projects?
Nothing really. I was able to squeeze out a few, nothing big, but we had enough money put away that I wasn't really stressed about it. Like, we had enough in my nest egg after buying it and everything to where I didn't really have to worry about building furniture. It's probably a good month. I would say every bit of a month before I actually started making real money again. And how that worked, I don't really know. It just seemed like money just kept showing up, and and I knew this year would be a lot of robbing Peter to pay Paul. And I knew that buying this, a lot of deposit money went towards a down payment. And I knew, I was like, this is going to be a hole I got to dig out. So mentally I told myself this year's going to be trying, just to get back to zero, with deposits come in, material gets bought, we get paid. A lot of that deposit money was spent on the shop itself, supply and the actual shop itself. So I knew, it's kind of like a little mental talk, Jeff, this year's going to suck. It's going to be hard to get back to my normal routine of cashing checks, buying material, building it. But now we're finally out of that. We're back to a regular scheduled program as soon as these cabinets are done and out of here.
I did that when we bought our house because we had to go about $100,000 over budget, and our budget wasn't that big in the first place to buy our house, and then maybe $150,000 over budget of where we wanted to be, and so I was like, all right, we'll make it work.
Yeah.
ended up busting my ass to like sign jobs, take deposits, get that all done.
Yeah.
Finally get into place after all this headache, and I'm like, all right, I can finally start playing catch up. And then my accountant's like, well, you made a lot more money last year because I like put all my deposit checks in because I needed them. Like normally I would wait.
Same way.
They're like, you owe an additional $20,000 in taxes. And I was like, fuck. I just made all of this work and like didn't even consider that I was basically bringing in all this extra money that just, you know, none of the jobs had started, so it just looked like I brought in all this money, and then I'm like, now I got to pay taxes on all that, and it's like it was like right after closing, and I'm like, I don't have anything left. Like, what do you want me to do?
Dude, it was the same way. We just did tax because we incorporated in October. Like as soon as we bought the building, like LLC or incorporated, I don't know what, S corp, something. Either way, so the year was split up. So my tax guy now was handling from October to December 31st. So I was like, just for fun, run these numbers from January to October. I was like, run these numbers, see what taxes will be. And he's like, you don't want me to do that because we did the same thing. We were just stacking chips to buy the shop. And I didn't really think about the whole, man, I got to pay taxes on these things. But no, it was the exact same thing. But
I'm actually kind of glad that I didn't know, because had I known, I would have been like, no, we're not buying that.
Yeah, right.
You know, if everyone was like, you would have had to pay this much, work this much.
And then, but it all works out.
Well, it works out because you make it work. Like,
you make it work. Absolutely.
Obviously,
every person listening to this podcast is going, so the beginning of the podcast, they told us that everyone's just building a brand and whatever, and they're not backing their work up. Now we're like, yeah, if you build a brand, then just work your ass off to back it up. So it's the same thing you guys have been doing with buying houses and shops. So,
but it is
a big Nike ad. Just do it.
Yeah, you make it work. Obviously, there's situations that come up where you can't make it work, and there's aspects of business that are very, very difficult. But it's just like supporting your children, buying a house, paying your monthly bills. We're all self-employed. We're all pretty much sufficient and provide for ourselves. And it's like, if I need to buy something else, I figure out how to make more money to supplement my income to make that happen. And the only way it's not going to happen is if I just one day become lazy.
I know.
You know, where I'm like, and I just don't care about the bills that are coming in, but that's not going to happen because that's part of the reason why I keep going, because in my head, I'm like, I got to pay for this. I got to pay for this. The girls are getting older. I'm going to have, you know, like I have 9 things down the road that are coming up. And the only way it's going to collapse is if I'm just like, I'm going to collapse.
And you do it long enough, you start to gauge yourself on what you're capable of spending and buying. Like, and I think it takes years to figure that out. But you start to figure out, like, I keep going back to the mechanic shop, even just taking a vehicle in without getting a quote and comparing, like, just drop it off. Just fix it. We'll pay you. Like, I'm not worried about it. Like, our AC unit went out at the house the other day. I was talking to Dad about. I said, went out, the buddy of mine that owns a company came and I said, just fix it. Let me know. And he called me. He goes, you're going to need a whole new system. Like, just get a new A coil, just start over. I'm like, all right, that's fine. Just do it. So I was talking to Dad. I'm like, well, I said, there goes that. It was like $8,000. I was like, man. He goes, oh, man. He goes, I've been there. I said, but you know what? To know that I can just buy that, that's a lot of money. Don't get me wrong. But to be able to know that I can do that 2 years ago, we would have taken a loan out because I was getting a check from my job every 2 weeks. I got the same check, and it was good money, but it wasn't like buy a new AC unit money. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it felt good. I could hang my hat knowing I didn't have to take a loan out for that. I was able to provide that and keep my family cool and hot in the wintertime. So in the sickest way possible, spending that money felt good. And I can't explain it. Maybe you guys can understand, but
there's a comfort with having that 9-to-5 job. I was there too. I made good money, but the reality is you're not controlling it. Someone else is controlling it, and that you're at the mercy of whatever that is. And I know not knowing it, and it took actually probably social media and these two guys for me to realize it, is that I wasn't in a good place. I was in the best place in my entire career, like the most money I'd ever made, building the nicest houses I've ever built, but actually in an environment that was going to make me, I was killing myself from the inside out. And
Right.
I didn't know that until
You didn't know it. Yeah.
I was talking to certain people and these guys and Nick, offline, and it was like, what am I doing?
Right.
And I mean, maybe he made it look super easy, even though he's in a shack in the woods out in like Stoughton, which is super creepy. Mansfield, what? It's the same thing. It's the same exact place. And I was like, you know what? I'm down for that. I'm down. I'll take that over what I'm doing.
Right.
And it was taking forever, but there was something that was so appealing to what was being offered to me at that clientele level.
Right.
You know what I mean, that was the draw. And I was willing to do anything to put up with anything to do it. But same thing, it's like, all right, well, if I want to buy, like wife and I looking at a new car because hers is whatever old, and she's like, well, I don't want to have a car payment. And I'm like, guess what? You're going to have one.
Yep.
Right.
And then she's looking at stuff and she's like, well, the ranges on this is like 50K to 110K. I'm like, what are you looking at? One. And I'm just crazy the range. But I'm like, in my eyes, I'm like, all right, what would I have to do on my end to up my quarterly, bonus, whatever it is that we get from profit sharing to make that happen?
Right.
Like if I had to pay it off, in a year, what do I have to do? What's the math? And it's like, that's just the hard work part of me is like, all right, I'll just do that. I'll just make that happen. Don't stress over that. And but we couldn't go. My whole point is I couldn't do that years before. I had asked my old boss, like, hey, what do I need to do? Because I think it was Mike from ECS had hit me up way back in the day. He's like, you should be making $350,000 minimum. And I was like, okay. I remember like 2 days later, I asked my boss, I'm like, how do I make $350,000? Like straight up. I was like, how do I do that? If I'm running everything and the clients trust me, how do I make that? And he's like, I'll make that happen. Turns out my 5-year anniversary happened, never moved. So I was like between that and some of the clientele said you could definitely make that happen. I was like, that enticed me to go, all right, I can control that. I can call that bluff. And it was now the point of how do I go out there and do it?
Yeah.
Because I was definitely making someone else that money.
Yeah. It's like people hold out these jobs for like a quarter raise a year. I'm like, I can't imagine. Just like
my mom does 3%.
It's crazy.
She's 69 years old, and they're like, so the highest you can get is 3%.
Yeah.
And my mom goes to the table every year and is like, I think I get 5.
Yeah. And I don't want to diminish people with a good job. Like, I'm not saying that at all. Like, there's jobs. I mean, I know once a month, I'm like, I can go work somewhere and just get a paycheck and go home and just not, everyone thinks that. Like, I don't want to diminish someone that's working.
Well, that's something that we talk about a lot. Sorry to cut you off, but everyone is, the one downside to this podcast in some ways is that we talk to a lot of owner operators, or we'll just call them number ones in the company. And there's nothing wrong with being a number 2, 3, 4, 5 in the company.
In the right company.
In the right company, absolutely. But and that's something that I think is almost falsely communicated in what we do here, and in this industry as a whole. Yeah. Because it's like, oh, you want to make $350,000, you got to start your own company. That's not the case. Like, if someone came to me and said that to me, it's like, all right, let's figure out that math. It's like, you would have to do this. You'd have to run this many projects. You need to make sure that they're this profitable, that we're hitting this percentage on our margins on these jobs. And I say that all the time. I've said it. I've literally said that in interviews or sitting down with my guys. It's like, you want to drive a Lamborghini to work? Sure, let's figure the math on that. Like,
how about like a King Ranch?
At least I know
Screw the King
where.
Ranch.
So when these people email
SUV,
when these people email me wanting to make an absurd amount of money, I know where to send them now. Like, listen,
I'm just saying I'm open for the conversation.
I have a guy, Nick,
I'm just
up in
open
Boston.
for the conversation.
But like Nick's point is like, I would kill to have someone as hungry as I was in my last company for a number 3.
Of course, but they have to be making you that, and
but
then
that's
some.
the point, Tyler. People forget that part.
Right.
People are like ignoring the fact. Like John, like I have nothing but the utmost confidence in the fact that John was doing that at his previous job.
Oh no, I did the math. I
right, but it's right. Like,
sure.
and you knew that it worked. So it's like, but you weren't in the right company. But I guess what my point is like, for those that are listening, it's like, you don't need to start your own company, because this is what a lot of this podcast is about. You don't need to start your own company to make peace with yourself.
Right.
You need to be in the right position. And it's like, I feel like I've read 100 articles about like Facebook, for example. It's like the number 2 in that company makes plenty of fucking money.
Right.
And it's like, you don't need to be number 1. Like, and people forget that there's this huge, like, the majority of the people in this world should be a number 2, a number 3, a number 4. It's like you have to balance the psychological side of being an owner of a company. There is, inevitable stress that comes with it. Same with the number 2s, but there's a bigger burden on the guy that is, his name's on the door.
Right. So, seriously, anyone listening to this, I am looking for a number 3. Hit me up. DM me.
What's the pay rate?
Info at
Tyler's got a lot of
infinite. Infinite. Make the math work.
Wait, but I have to make you as much as you're paying me? Sounds silly.
No. I'd make it.
I think you got to make at least double.
Yeah, we have an ad in right now on Indeed, and by the way, Indeed compared to social media, you can tell me, Nick, but I'm seeing better candidates come out of social media.
I just had a better
100%. I was gonna say Indeed was a nightmare.
Waste.
It's like I filled all these requirements, and I got it was like you must have. I think we were interviewing for a cabinet maker at the time, and it was like you must have worked in a cabinet shop, and it was like
cannot have DUI.
It was like Bob just applied to your job. 15 years as a pizza cook. I'm
is
like,
on Facebook or Indeed?
Hey, Indeed. I'm like, hey, no, like I all good for Bob for like changing up careers, but I mean, listen, I like pizza, but I need someone to make a cabinet. Like, this is not interesting. And it was just, I interviewed, I don't know, maybe 10 of them, and it was just, I was like, this is a wild waste of my time.
Yeah.
So
100%.
it sucked. But yeah,
Thank
I mean,
God,
I think
have
social
to do
media,
that.
like, the point is like people are buying into what you're doing already, and it's the same thing with clients. It's like our best clients are people that know who we are prior to talking to us.
Right.
All right,
Yeah.
so what do you do? And Jeff had sent me something earlier today about this. What do you do if you were, a 1-2 man show and you want to kind of expand business a little bit, but you don't want to go the full sub route. You still want to self-perform some, but you'd like, for me personally, I have a certain size project that I know is my sweet spot to make me money, and I would love to work by myself and not have an employee. But then I'd have to sub some work out, and it's like, what do I sub out? What don't I sub out? How do I continue to make money when it's not just going in my pocket? Obviously, you have less overhead than having an employee, but
Right.
I still can't really be running multiple jobs, because then I wouldn't be able to perform any work. I'd just be subbing work. And I know Jeff had said something about looking to sub some work, or he had subbed some work out, which didn't work out so well for you, right?
No, not at all. And and it was a very valuable lesson. It was really the first time I was branching out and I was trusting people and I'm a pretty trusting person. I just assume that everyone's not an asshole and is going to perform the way they say they can.
Well, that's where you went wrong.
Yep. I learned. So I was doing a lot of work in this guy's house, like a ton, building a lot of furniture for him. And he was talking about having floors replaced and stuff built. And I was like, so I don't know. It's not really my thing. Well, it just so happens that week a guy reached out. He was a contractor, closed his business down, said he wanted to spend more time somewhere else. And I said, all right, that's fine. And he goes, you got any work? I said, yeah, ironically, right now we have a house that needs a lot of stuff done. He's wanting a quote. So anyways, I trusted this guy and a lot. And I wasn't really checking in on him. And it went beyond that house. Like, we went on to other houses, and then some flooring needed put down and a fence needed built. So it was great because I was able to provide for this guy. I'm like, hey, we got this work. So instead of just having him run it and say, hey, put 15% on and give it to me, I was like, well, I'll run it through my company. He was bidding it. He'd go look at the job. He'd bid it and tell me what he needed for labor. Then I'd get material. So it was working out good. Everyone was getting paid. Everyone's happy. Well, then all of a sudden, he just leaves. He was done. All of a sudden. Oh, that's kind of weird. Well, then all the calls started. Everything was wrong. These inspections, he wasn't getting permits like he said he was pulling. The work sucked, the stuff's falling apart, and then I was left with like a lot of fixing that I still have to do, like a lot. And what makes it worse is it's not even in my scope. It's stuff that I don't even want to do. I want nothing to do with any of this stuff. But it was cool because I was able to provide for him. Like, I was giving him cash. I was giving him money. And I was making some on the other end. You know, it worked out great. But I trusted him so much, I let my guard down. And I wasn't babysitting. I wasn't checking on him. I wasn't looking at the work. So now I'm really hurting, like, going back and fixing all this crap. So my takeaway from that is, trust nobody. You know, assume that no one knows what they're doing. At least check in on them and make sure things are getting done. And luckily, thank God, all these clients are like so understanding. And even they all say, like, we know it's not you. We know it wasn't your name. Like, we never diminish that. But if it wasn't, like, I worked so freaking hard to build what I have, like, that could have been taken away like that, you know, by just one of these jobs. So luckily for me, those clients, like, understand, like, it's not exactly me.
Who's running a leaf blower?
That's Jimmy. He's weedy for me. He'll probably stop in.
Doug's gonna be like, dude, who had all the background noise?
Because John has like saws running, and you
thought
can
it was John,
sometimes
but
hear him,
he's
and then he
muted.
disappeared. I was like, "Is John's the guy just blowing the shop out?"
I'm gonna go trim the grass real quick. No, that was a very pretty expensive lesson. Is just either you sub it out completely, let them run underneath their name, and throw on your percentage, or make sure whoever's doing the work is doing as good as they say they are.
So how long was that going on before you realized how bad it was? Like, did it, because I feel like it usually starts off good, right? And it's okay. And then all of a sudden, like, as soon as you let that leash out, then the true colors come out, and you're like, oh my God, that was way worse than I had thought.
I think it was day one. It was just as bad.
Really?
Yeah, and I think it was just working smooth, and he's very. This guy's right in my window. Everything was working out so smooth, and everyone was getting paid what they wanted. That was kind of blinding me of, wait, this is still my name on this project. I should probably be a little more invested on a little quality control here. So it probably went on for 4 or 5 months. He was working for me, and then just up and left me with a hell of a headache.
You might need to tell him to do the other side of the building.
Fucking Jimmy.
It's so loud.
Is he weed whacking?
Yeah, he's weed whacking.
I thought it was.
My shop's empty today.
That's what I was like.
When you got up, I was like, what is John doing?
No, dude, I raced here, so
the leaf
they're
blower.
remodeling the bathrooms right here, so I had to run to the other side of the building.
Ah, much better.
The building I wanted in Newton for like a design center / shop, they just knocked it down.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Builder.
I was told it was going to stay. It was an old foundry building. It would have been super cool. And I was told they're going to keep it they're doing like a massive development over there, across from Splashnik. Splash the gallery and all that stuff. And they were supposed to keep it, and it was super cool, like 2.5 stories high. And they just knocked it down last week.
Damn it, Jimmy.
You don't even you have come a long way. You don't even mow your own lawn now.
No, I don't mow lawns. No, that's what I was worried about. The 2 guys, I don't know if they're laid off or they just don't work. But he came over, he's like, I'll mow your yard for you. Like, how much do you want? Nothing. Gives me something to do.
No. Seriously?
Yeah. So he just has it. He only mows mine, and he mows the mechanic shop around the corner. And
there's no one.
You don't give him money. You got to throw him.
I'll give him money. No, he ain't gonna work for free. But I mean,
Natty Light.
Actually, I bet he looks like a natty drinker. He probably drink natty.
Send him to my place.
Throw a Zima in there. See what he does.
Give him something to do. He's a good dude.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, he's
Send
definitely
him my way.
So you just had to tell the guy who offered to mow your lawn for free that he can't do it right now.
Yeah, he looked at me. He's like, "Oh, sorry, but I'm done." I'm like, that's all right. It's all good, Jimmy. But it's like when I first moved in. There's one. Jimmy's cool. I got a neighbor over here that loves to talk, And when I was looking at the building, I could tell he loves to talk. So I said, if I buy this, you're not going to come bother me, because I have no problem telling people I'm done talking. Like, we're done with this conversation. Let me work. So I said, Ron, you understand, like, because this used to be like his clubhouse. He knew the guy that owned it, like the old guys. They just where he hung out. I said, listen, I love you, man. I said, but I'm not a talker. I said, when I'm working, I was like, I just don't like visitors. Yeah, no problem. So the first day, sure enough, I'm up on a ladder and he's standing there. I said, Jimmy, or not Jimmy, it was Ron. I said, Ron, brother, I'm just not a talker. I said, when I'm trying to get something done, I don't have X amount of time in the day. Like, I need to get it done. By the third time, I took my headphones off and I threw them on the ground. I said, Ron, quit coming over here. I said, I love you. I said, you're a cool neighbor. I said, but I don't talk when I work. And that was the last time. I mean, we say hi and we talk, but he doesn't do shop visits anymore. We had to put it into that.
It's like I still got that bruise from the headphones coming flying across the shop.
I wasn't happy. I mean, he caught me on a pretty bad day anyways. But I just, I know when I wake up what needs done. And it doesn't matter if it doesn't get done. But in my mind, like, that has to get done. Like, I have to get to this point. To be set up for tomorrow, I have to be to this point. To set up for Friday, I have to be, it's just the way my brain works. And at the end of the day, if it doesn't get done, I literally have to talk to myself like, it's all right. Like, you can do that tomorrow. You don't let it ruin your night. Don't be an asshole when you get home. Like, it's going to be okay. We'll do it tomorrow. But just the way my brain works, man. In the morning, if I know what needs to get done and it doesn't, I have a hard time with it.
I think I'm that way.
Oh, I don't know. It eats me up.
I had multiple customers that just don't get the hint.
Right.
Like, I can only really be so nice for so long, and then I'm like, all right, listen, I'm gonna start charging you hourly while I'm here, and let's see how long you stick around. We just switched from lump sum to hourly. Yeah. So,
and I'll tell them, like, even on install day, like, kind of jokingly, which we don't have too many installs. It's mostly drop offs anymore. But I'll say, when I'm installing, like, I'm going to have my headphones on. I said, and to work good, I have to just have my headphones on. Like, that's the first thing I do in the morning. I said, I'm not a talker. Just let me work. And, if you need something to wave at me, I'll take them off. But I'll tell them straight up, like, I just need my headphones on and I just have to work. Like, I have to be in that mindset. But that's just how I work best, I guess. I have to be in my own state of mind.
Yeah, I told my one customer, it got to the point where I was like, listen, you can't talk to me between 8 and 5. Right. I was like, so if you have questions, or you want to walk through things, or you want to look like, we'll do it before I start work or when I'm done at the end of the day. But I'm just like, every 15 minutes while you're home on COVID working in the basement and you like something random pops in your head that's 2 months down the road, I'm not going to answer it while you're home. I'm sorry.
Just write it down and we'll go over it at the end of the week. Yeah. I tell my wife the same thing. I was like, you don't have to text me all day. I was like, just put it in your notes, and then when I get home, we'll go over it. Like, you don't have to text me every 5 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
It's going pretty good.
Going pretty good, yeah.
So far.
Yeah, I think it's like when you do something wrong at home and you get the text, it's like, did you seriously? It's like, why you at...
You feel like the whole day.
Hey, did you leave the laundry in the washer and not switch it to the dryer? It's like, I mean, there's only one answer to that.
Yeah, and I can just feel like the other day I left the stroller out. Like, I borrowed her car, I had to get the stroller out, so I left it in the driveway. And as I was getting in my truck to go to work, I saw that stroller. I thought, put it back in her car right now. I was like, no, that's fine. She can get it. Sure as shit, I got a text message. Did you really have to leave the stroller out? And my whole day just went like, it was done. Yeah, like,
crashed.
It was done. Like, and I was like, why?
Right.
What good is that text going to do? She goes, I'm sorry, I was stressed out. Knox was crying and on and on. I'm like, if you knew what that does to my brain, you would never do it again. I said, my whole day just stops on a dime and that's it.
I've had this same conversation and she usually is like, well, then you shouldn't have done it. I wouldn't have texted you. I'm like, you're right. I'm not saying you're wrong here. I just, like, it's not really necessary. Like, when I get home, be like, hey, can you try to be better about not leaving stuff in the washer? Like, totally. But when I'm, like, at work and someone's pissing me off and then you text me, it's like, now I'm pissed off at you because you just pissed me off again.
Exactly. I just don't.
Funny.
Or if they just decide not to talk to you all night, but then they'll text you in the morning, like, "Oh no, we could have thought last night. I'm at work now. Like, you didn't want to hash this out last night? No, we're not doing it today." Yeah.
I borrowed my wife's car the other day. I had to go into Philly, and I didn't feel like taking my pickup truck, so there was a couple things in her car, with car seats and stuff, and I put them into my pickup truck so I wouldn't just leave her high and dry. And then I went to leave, and I was at the end of the driveway, and I hit the brakes, and I heard something roll in the back, and I was like, oh, it's her softball bat, because she's coaching the girl, Selby softball. And I was like pretty late at this point, so I just took it and I threw it from the end of the driveway and got it as close to the side yard as possible. And I was like, hey, listen, all this stuff, like the car seats, all that are in my truck. Your baseball bat's pretty close to the side door, but it's on the lawn.
Right.
That's as good as I could do.
God love them.
I wasn't turning back around for that one.
Jeff, I want to talk about something that I feel like it's pretty recent, but you've talked about it a little bit. You took a hiatus from social media for a while.
Yeah.
What was that about?
Oh man, how deep you want to get?
Deep.
I didn't even know you did.
You didn't notice? Tyler's like, he was gone. I did. Tyler's like, I know he didn't impersonate me there for a while. So
this is news to me.
Oh, I used to love when you used to do the, all right, who am I acting like today? I never get them right.
I did that a lot.
You did.
I just stick with Tyler's now. Yeah. Gotta know how much he loves it. I was getting to the point where, Instagram and Facebook and TikTok, and it just consumes you. And like the crap you see on there, like whether you know it or not, like it's in your brain. So every morning I'd pull up to the shop and I just get on TikTok and just start scrolling. The crap you'd see on there, it sets your tone for the day. Like I was seeing crap on there that I shouldn't see, shouldn't look at. And then it's in my brain all day, and that's all you focus on. So it just came to a head one night. I said, I'm done. I said, I'm just done with this crap. So it was like 50 days, 45 days. I was done with everything and just got rid of it. But now you see the stuff you don't want to see, you shouldn't see, and it kind of clicks a little different. Before, you don't think anything of it. You just think, oh, this is normal. What's out there? But like, no, you don't have to be a part of that. You don't have to, guys share the DMs and guys share all that crap. Like, you don't have to be a part of that. And it's okay to tell them, I don't want any part of this anymore. Like, this isn't what I'm about. This isn't the kind of guy I want to be. That stuff gets in deep, man. It can take over all your thoughts and your views. So it got quite a bit deeper than me just getting rid of social media. Like I found a lot of faults in myself because of that.
Because of social media or because of what you were being a part of?
You were having trouble learning all the new dance moves, and you got so frustrated that you're like, I just need to take this off my phone.
I had to get it out of there. I wasn't much of a dancer. What was your question, Nick?
Well, I guess you said it got deeper than that, and was it because what you were getting involved with, or that you were just consuming things that you felt as though were discrediting other things in your life? And I mean, and correct me if I'm wrong. I think this is kind of segueing into your, if again, correct me if I'm wrong. Recent, found, basically find a faith.
Yeah,
right? Like,
say it.
No, I'm not dancing around. I'm trying to figure out the right way to say it, but it's like you started talking about your faith and your religion a lot more. Right. I feel like after this, so I'm trying.
You
to
are not coming up in my algorithm because this is literally just straight news.
Well, and for whatever reason, I do. I remember seeing you come back and you started talking about just faith and religion and how you took a sabbatical. So, as much as you're comfortable with talking about, I'd love to understand that, because for me and for a lot of people that listen, I think this revolves a lot around mental health.
Oh, yeah.
And, and that is something that myself, and I know everyone listening struggles with. So for someone to, come back and have this fresh set of eyes and look towards how they want to be a better man, as you just said. Right. That's interesting.
Yeah. Well, if I can get through without crying, we'll be all right. But I'm pretty passionate about this. You know what's out there. I mean, you know what you see. And maybe we'll go pretty deep here. But you know what's on TikTok. You know, the crap you see and it gets in your brain and you think it's normal. Well, then this is where it gets weird. Then how does your wife compare? Like, so now you're comparing everything you see on TikTok to your home life. And it starts small. Like you don't think anything of it. Then all of a sudden you're comparing what you don't have and you're not seeing what you got. And it can eat you up. I mean, you can get in pretty deep without knowing it till it comes to a head and you realize this is more than just me being a dumbass scrolling on social media. Like, this has become more of an issue. Sure. And it really is. It's a problem that I thought maybe I did by myself, but you come to find out that there's a lot of guys that struggle with this. Even a lot of the guys that I reached out to and said, I'm kind of done with this. I'm done with this whole DM. And they've since reached out, said, since you've told me that, they said, it's kind of like putting a watchful eye on, like all of a sudden they were seeing it from a different perspective. But you can get tied up in that crap and not even know it's an issue. You just think that's what guys do. We're men. You know, we look at girls on TikTok and we go through our feed. Like, I'm pretty transparent about it. You know, I'm pretty open to it. But it's getting in your mind. You are what you consume. It's no different than eating shitty foods. You know, you are what you consume. And if that's what you're consuming first thing in the morning and not thinking about what you got, I mean, it'll take over your life. And it was. And thank God I saw it. You know, I was literally in the basement and it came over me to the point my legs were shaking. I thought, what is going on? Like, I was in religion before, and then I was out for a couple years, and when that happened that night, I said, something's wrong. So I reached out to a couple guys, and actually, Redeemed. Do you remember Redeemed on here?
Yeah.
Derek. I reached out to him because I know he was dealing with his was, I don't know if it's out there or not, but he was dealing with some addictions himself. And he went to a Celebrate Recovery, and he told me, I called him that next day, and I said, well, I don't know what's going on, man. And he goes, oh, it's totally normal. He goes, find a Celebrate Recovery. So I did. There was a local one, and they deal with any sort of addictions, whether it's alcohol, substance, sex addictions, mental health. Like, it's just a place to go land and talk to good people. So I got into that, and man, like, just to realize and have someone say it's normal, like, we can help, that was awesome. Because at the time, it's like, I don't know, like, it's just stuff that I like to look at, you know, stuff that pops up, you know. But yeah,
that was real that was you seeing it. It wasn't something that was, you know, I guess, like, in this case, is your wife bringing it to your attention?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess she never really knew, but things happened that it made it come to a head, you know. So it kind of, you know, to hear someone else say it is always a little worse than, you know, you thinking it, you know.
Sure.
So that's what kind of maybe nudged me along to think, okay, well, maybe this is more than just a habit, you know. Maybe that's a good way to put it.
Right.
So yeah, the first step was separating myself from everything. Just had to stop and, like, reset. And that's what I told her. I said, right now I'm fixing me. Like, I'm working on me. I said, whether you're there at the end or not, like, it's me. Like, I can't help anything else until I'm fixed.
Right.
And that was that's what needed to happen. And thank God it did, because, you know, that stuff sucks, man. Any side of it. And I being in Celebrate Recovery, you're in with a lot of other addicts of substance and alcohol and stuff, which I still drink. I'll drink beer from time to time, but nothing like I used to. I drank a lot to fill a void that I didn't have happiness. Like, I genuinely wasn't happy. I was happy, but I would drink just to make myself happy. But now I don't need to drink. Like, I enjoy beer. I enjoy having a beer or two, but I don't need to drink, 10 beers a night just to be a dad. You know, I'm happy. I love my family now that I see them. The shit's out of the way, and I see my family. I see my wife. So I think a lot of guys go through life blinded, thinking about what men actually do and what men are. But until you dig deep and see what a man is, a lot changes. I mean, your whole outlook on life and what you do as a person, a lot changes. And it's thank God it did, because, just a rabbit hole.
Do you have two sons, or?
I got 3. Landon's 15, which that's when I met my wife. He was 2.5. So that's my quote unquote stepson, but that's my son. And then Jack is 5, and Knox is a newborn. He's a month old.
So all boys.
Yeah, all boys.
So that's where a lot of decisions that I make in my life or have made in my past, it comes down to the example I want to set for my kids. And it's not necessarily decisions that I would have made on my own. And I think a lot of times when people say kids change you, it's kids change who you are based on who you want to be. Like, I feel like you're a different person with children, not just because, like, oh, I have kids now. It's because you want to be the best version of yourself for your kids.
Yeah.
You want to set a good example for them. And in a situation like that, you think, would I want that my son, like, if I look at it, I'm like, if my daughters were to do or treat somebody the way I just did, I wouldn't allow it, but I allow myself to do that. So a lot of those things where, you're setting a good example for your sons, or, if you had a daughter, it's like, would I want my daughter's husband to be acting this way?
Right.
And I think that kind of prefaces a lot of the decisions that I make and have made in my life, even before having kids, where it's like, I need to do certain things before I'm ready to bring a child into this world, because I'm not grown up enough to do that right now. I don't want to be setting an example for these kids that's going to set them up for failure. Yeah.
Even as simple as, I'd always be the one to make comments. Like, we see Carrie Underwood on TV. Like, when Landon was little, he'd always know that, Dad likes Carrie Underwood. That was always a joke. Like, that's your girlfriend. Well, now looking back, I'm like, now that my attention's on my wife, like, I see my wife now, like, even something that small, like, my son shouldn't know that, shouldn't know that think that I'm attracted to someone else. Like, even if it's Carrie Underwood, like, he should know that my wife is my queen. Like, above every fucking crying, you guys suck. But no, the boys should know that. Like, boys should see the man respecting his wife and respecting his mom in a way that's just, off the charts. Like, that's how boys should be raised. And I wasn't doing that. I was just trying to be a man in man society, look at other chicks and making stupid jokes about our friend's wife. Like, we go out. That's just not a man. Like, be a man, walk the walk and talk the talk. And, I always say I raise men. Like, I'm not raising boys, I'm raising men. I don't raise these kids for 2 years down the road. I raise these kids for 5 years down the road, 10 years, how I want them to be, not the way they are now. So, yeah, it's been a crazy year, and thank God it has been, because I feel like I'd walk around my eyes closed for so long, being a dad and a man in society, a man in God's eyes, not a man in society. Society tells us to be soft and be pretty, and, men need to be men. I mean, everyone knows that. There's an issue in this world of masculinity and how a man's supposed to be, in their eyes. And that's not – men need to be men. Men need to take care of women. Men need to be, honorable, and not these soft little flowers that everyone wants to make us anymore, it seems like. But a good book for any listeners right now. Let me just pull it up here. I've listened to it probably 10 times. I'm trying to think of the name of it while I'm sitting here on the spot. And I don't read them because I have a hard time reading. Wild at Heart is an incredible book, and they have an audio book. But it really plays out what men in today's society is supposed to look like, not what media tells us to be and what we're supposed to consume. That's good stuff.
So, relating that to religion, was that more about the sense of community? And I think for lack of better terms, people look at this as a negative, right? It's like, I don't want to hear that Jeff, found Jesus again, or went back to church. Yeah. I just want to see him build tables. But what you're talking about is something beyond religion, and beyond that, it's about being a better person, or, as you say, a better man. So how does that relate to religion in your case?
That's a good question. I don't know. It just does. There's no other way to. I guess the CR group was religion based. It was at a church, and Dad explained it pretty good to me too. He goes, we were talking about how my idea of church is a small church where you know the people, you can talk to them. And Heather loved this big church, where you don't get to talk to anybody. And Dad said, well, he works by himself all week long. Like he looks forward to, and that kind of clicked. I'm like, okay, maybe that's why I like that camaraderie. And when you have a room full of men that can sit down and explain issues they're having at home and then with their self, and it kind of clicks like, I'm not alone. Like this isn't just a me problem. This is, many other guys deal with these same issues. That's pretty powerful in itself. Whatever you're dealing with. But the religion, I don't know. I don't know how that correlated. I guess just going to that CR class, that church, and I don't know. I can't explain it, but it just did, and I'm glad it did. But how those go together, I guess I find peace in it, and I tell guys, I don't know. There's no way I can tell you if God's real or not. I have no idea. I feel like he is, and it brings me peace. So therefore, if it brings me peace and it gives me some sort of enlightenment on how I need to be in this world, even if he's not true, I live my whole life happy, free, and the amount of stress and anxiety that I've lost just knowing that it's not in my hands. There's no reason to stress about this. The story's already been written. The story's already been told. So why am I stressing about this? I've been able to let go of a lot of anxiety and stress throughout this whole process, just knowing that there's a bigger power to be, that's not me trying to preach. And I try not to preach, but if I could spread the word and help at least one guy out a day, then, so be it. That's what I'll be.
And you're saying that you've been able to relieve stress and anxiety outside of just you and your wife's relationship.
Yeah, just as a person as a whole. Like everything becomes small. Like when you see the big picture, everything else is small. Nothing matters. And that's the biggest thing I tell guys is there was a guy I was thinking about. All right, so one day I was finishing up a job that I shouldn't have been doing. The other guy screwed up. I'm trying to paint. I'm trying to prime. I dropped this bucket of paint all over the floor. And this was kind of right in the middle of I was baptized at the time, but it was still kind of new, I guess. And it was really the first bad day I had in a while. Like it was the first day I was just mad. I spilt this paint all over my pants. I'm pissed off. So I've learned, tell someone, call someone. Don't just try to do it by yourself. So I called my wife. I said, Heather, I don't know what the hell's going on. I said, this is the first bad day I've had on it. She goes, go listen to the sermon from Sunday. I missed that Sunday at church. Well, I was going to a different church. She was going to her church. She goes, go listen to my sermon. So I went over there. Started talking. I'm sitting there just eating McDonald's, just hate eating, So I'm sitting there eating, and all of a sudden, like, he starts talking about something about the Army, and I don't know what it was about. All I remember is the Army, and then it put this guy in my brain, this guy I went to high school with, and we weren't really friends. I knew of him, he knew of me, whatever. Well, I knew he's been battling cancer. So I thought about him all day. And finally I was like, just stop and message him. And it was late. I was sitting right here, and I said, dude, what's up? I said, I don't know why you're on my brain. I don't know why, but I can't quit thinking about it. I hope all's well. And he's, like every man, I'm fine, pray for my wife. She's stressed out. And then 10 minutes later, he's like, you know what, dude, I'm not fine. And he talked about how he's dealing with, he's a veteran. He's talking about how he's dealing with PTSD, not being able to drink because he was an alcoholic. So I just sent him a link I said, what's your zip code? I found him a CR link. I said, go to CR. And he's like, now he just did a testimonial where I actually heard the story from his perspective. But he said he was in the bathtub at the time, and he just jumped up and he went. And that's when he kind of changed his life. I forgot what your question was, but this was going somewhere.
I was asking you to relate it to how it has,
affected your whole life, not just
your
work.
whole life outside.
But I was thinking small thing, and that's what he says now. That was 5 months ago.
Well, you said you were having a bad day. It was your first bad day. Yeah,
and that's what trying to bring it back to. He'll say the same thing now. He goes, I just learned what to worry about, what not to worry about. Once he found the faith, like he's in his church now and he's been baptized. Like he goes, I realized I was worried about such small things that just don't matter. And I think that can go beyond religion. Once you find that things don't matter, like the things we worry about do not matter at all. Like we stress about the stupidest things that we can't control even if we wanted to. So just do it. We could probably tie this into a lot of the conversation we just had for the past hour. But you don't have to stress. You don't have to worry. Just live your life. If you fail, like you said, if you start that company, it fails, just do it. Who cares? Why are you stressing about shit that you can't control anyways? And so that was a lot of it, is just losing that anxiety and that stress that I was dealing with, and learning just don't stress about this stuff. Like, just whether you give it over to God like I do, or give it over to whatever higher power you want to find, if you can find that release like I have, man. And I tell people, I said, I still stress, I still get mad, but now I know to stop and think, does this matter? Like, why are you stressing about this? And the answer is no, it doesn't matter. Quit being an idiot.
It's funny, and, and I'm not a religious person, and I don't, necessarily believe that there is or isn't a God, but I've definitely, this past year has put me in a position to, again, going back to, like, realizing, let me take the chance I'm considering taking. The worst case scenario isn't that bad. I have a bad client that, could potentially, ruin me. But it's like, at the end of the day, it's like, so can anyone.
Yeah.
And it's like, I can't live my whole life. I've woken up in the middle of the night. My wife's like, what's wrong? I'm like, I just had a dream that so-and-so sued me.
Right.
And she's like, are you all right? I'm like, yeah, I am now. But it's like, I don't want, the fact that I'm even thinking about that I don't want that for me.
Yeah.
And I'm going to lighten the mood for a little bit here. It's funny that you talk about spilling the paint and getting pissed off. And I feel like I haven't really gotten pissed off in a really long time.
Yeah.
But and this is going to sound absolutely asinine, but this morning I'm making my daughter a bagel, and I want to put almond butter on it. And my wife buys the organic almond butter. I don't know if you guys have it, but it has the oil on the top that you have to mix. Well, I don't know how to mix it. So I'm sitting there with a knife trying to get the stuff to soften up. The oil spills all over my shirt. And I literally, like beet red face, like, pissed. I just stained my shirt. It's a nice shirt. I was so mad. And I walked away. I took it off. I was like, what the fuck is wrong with me? Like, why was I just so mad at that?
Yeah.
And it's like, and my wife's like, what's wrong? I'm like, I just got fucking why do you buy the organic peanut butter? And she's like, it's better. I'm like, I know. That's
not the problem, yeah.
But I think looking inward is the bigger thing. Is that, why haven't I opened the peanut butter to know to mix it? That's not anyone else's fault.
It's not, but first off, I don't. If anyone knows how to mix this shit, please let me know. I was about to get a drill, dude. This stuff is like cement,
dude.
Listen, I'm not that weak. I'm not that much of a flour.
Measure of a man is how we
grab a knife and stir that some bitch
peanut butter.
Yeah.
I don't know, boys. I'm listening to this whole thing, and I'm definitely intrigued, Jeff, by how you got consumed and went down. Because there's so many people that will turn to social and say that they found their community, they found their people. And I'm very interested to understand that, was it creating content that consumed you, and that was the initial draw? Like, where did it go wrong? I'm reading all this stuff and I'm listening to it, and I feel like I am missing a few keys to the song, and I just don't get it.
It was all the crap in between. It was just all the junk out there that you don't need to see. It wasn't anything. I didn't give it up for what I was doing social media wise. It was just the fluff in between that distracts you from your life and what needs to be viewed. It's the other crap that's out there that's probably just not the best to look at.
He was looking at girls.
Yeah, just TikTok. If you go on TikTok for any
I'm not on TikTok, so it took me a couple minutes to pick up what you were talking about.
Instagram. I mean, it's everywhere, and now you see it, and you're like, oh my God, it's everywhere. So, like, I worry about a 15-year-old boy I have at home. Like, everything's at your fingertips. It's not like back in the day when, if you saw it,
you had to find a Playboy.
Yeah, it's at your fingertips. It's everywhere, and it sucks. And now you see it in a different light. Like, oh man, like, how do you prepare him for that, or how do you talk to him about that? Yeah, it's just the rubbish in between the work. But no, it wasn't anything on my page necessarily. Like, I still loved what I did. I still love Instagram and posting, but it was just the crap that is irrelevant to life that consumes you and takes a hold.
So I've also found, I mean, if you have an addictive personality, right, there's always gonna be something, and it could switch. It could be alcohol, it could be drugs, and like a lot of times people have their go-to, but you're still going to have the personality type, the way your brain fires, your knee-jerk reactions. You're going to be more predisposed to having an addictive personality. And I think so much, like, when you're sorting that stuff out and you're so consumed by it for so long that you don't realize how skewed your thinking is until you come out of it. Right.
Sure.
So like it happens slowly. And like the guys know about Nick, John, Ben know about issues that I had a few years ago where like they started slowly and then progressed, and then it got to a point where it was like blew up all over the place. And I was like, how the hell did I get here?
Yeah.
It didn't ever see, like, looking back on it, I saw the progression, but like when I was there, it was normal. I was
Sure.
I was like supporting the lifestyle. I was making it work. It was normal in my head because I had slowly normalized that. And it wasn't until, you know, like my wife stepped in and other people stepped in and were like, hey, listen, like, this is what you're doing. This is not right. This has got to stop or I'm out of here. That you realize, like, holy shit. And like, even that, sometimes it doesn't take that. It like, you have to hit your rock bottom, so to speak, and figure out like how bad it is to start building yourself back up. But then you look back on it and it's like, holy crap, I got that far deep into that and didn't even realize and was just going like you restructure your life to basically make time and allow for that to happen in a lifestyle that you don't make time and allow for anything.
Right.
And then like you now realize that you're planning everything around doing this and that's your biggest priority. And it's like, holy shit, how the hell did that just happen? And then once you come to that realization and you kind of free yourself from that and then start working on yourself and bettering yourself and kind of, I always equate it to like you're in this shitstorm and you don't realize until you come out and shake your head and you're like, holy crap, what just happened? Like that just happened for so long. And it makes sense once you're out of it, but a lot of times you don't realize you're in it until it's like, until you're coming out. You need that insanity to be able to kind of gauge the clarity in your life.
Yeah. Like you said, it adds up over time. You know, I'm not, I don't want to make an excuse for myself, but it wasn't like a full-fledged, like, had to do this. It was just things that were getting in my mind. It wasn't like I was seeking these video, like nothing like that. But at the same time, like every morning, like without even knowing that was the weird part, is it wasn't like a drug or alcohol that I was putting into my body. It was just crap that I would see that was getting in, and you just assumed it was normal. You know, like this is just normal stuff that I see, but you don't realize what you're not focusing on when that crap's in your mind. Because to start the day at 5 a.m, just scrolling TikTok or scrolling Instagram, like, you don't think anything of it, but it gets in there and you don't know it's there. And then all of a sudden that's what you're thinking about all day long. So, and like you said, it adds up a little bit, and then all of a sudden
you skew your normal. Like your normal, your normal initially was, you know, at like a waist level, and then by the end, your normal's way over your head, and like the waist level isn't enough. And it's with respect to everything. It could be alcohol, it could be drugs, it could be watching TV, it could be food, it could be being lazy, sleeping in. It's all the same thing.
Right.
But it takes you getting to that point for you to come out and be like, hey, I need to make a change. I need to, and I did that with alcohol when I was 23 because I knew we wanted to have kids and we wanted to have a family. And I was like, I want to make a decision to stop this. And I want to set a good example for my kids. I don't want to ever have to explain to them, like you said, you have a son and he sees you on your phone doing that, or he normalizes the fact that you have a crush on this other woman, celebrity or not. Like, I don't ever want to have to explain to my daughters why it's okay for daddy to drink a beer with friends and then get in a car and drive them home. I don't ever want to have to differentiate between 1 beer and 2 beers, 1 beer and 5. Well, shots are different. Like, never, you will never see daddy ever drink alcohol, ever get in a car and then drive. And that's a decision that I made because that's just the example I want to set. And that's not to say that people can't do that safely and people can't make that decision. People can't have a good life doing that. I didn't want to.
Yeah.
And that's a decision that I made, and it took getting out of that lifestyle and separating yourself from it to basically realizing how much happier I could be and how much better my life could be. And I am grateful for all of that shit and all of the bad things and where I came from, because had I not, like, maybe if it wasn't so bad, I'd still be doing it. But the fact that it was so painful, I not only made a decision, but then I made a decision to never go back to that.
Right. Yeah, because you see what your life's capable of when you're done with it.
Yeah.
Like I said, looking back now, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I have it all.
Yeah.
I have everything I ever wanted right now, and it was just covered up by senseless shit that I just don't need. You know, and then religion has. And I had a guy mess with me one time. He was trying to get sober, alcohol. I said, you know, you're gonna need to fill that void. Like there's gonna be a void missing. You're filling that with alcohol right now, and for me, religion filled that void. You know, God filled that void for me, and that's what worked for me, and I love it. But everyone's got to find that something to fill that void, because that's essentially what you're doing. You're trying to fill this spot that alcohol is filling temporarily, and it only lasts so long. So that's the hard part, is just I love my faith. I love where I'm at now. I've never been happier in my life. So, you know, find whatever brings you happiness, just dive and go head first in. You'll love it.
I mean, it is important to note, though, with filling that void, that you can't just do a 1-for-1 switch, right? Because, like, if you're just replacing alcohol with God, you're not addressing the problem. Like, it's good to have, you need that higher power, you need that faith, you need something to fall back on that's bigger than you. But even if it's a good thing, like, there's too much of a good thing. And if you're just taking one, there's a lapse of something in your life, and it's a bad thing, and you're fulfilling it with something else. Like, oh, you know, I drank too much, and I worked too much. Like, you didn't ever address the issue. You didn't ever address your head and why you lean to doing things like that, which is something that I've had to address, because it's like, oh, you don't drink, you work more. You know, like, you're not doing this, and then you're doing this, and it's always gas on or gas off. It's I'm not doing it, or it's 110%. So, like, that's where I have to look inward and address, like, well, what are you actually looking to kind of put in that place? Why are you looking for that self-fulfillment? Why does that feel so good? And then really breaking it down, and then you can realize how you can integrate, you know, if it's God or if it's work or if it's another hobby, safely into your life, where it's not just consuming yourself in another direction.
Yeah, because you're going to do it 10 times more than however much you drank. If work's going to replace that void, then you're going to work. I mean, you're going to work 10 times more than you drank.
Exactly.
If you're trying to fill that. No, I get it. I get it, man.
But I think that's all part of, like, whatever sort of recovery you're doing in your life, and it doesn't have to just be drugs or alcohol. If you're looking, But I just, you know, I guess the main takeaway for any listeners is, no matter what you're fighting, you don't have to fight alone. Like, don't think got men, and same thing, like, men, you think that men can't talk and men can't have bullshit. Yeah.
Ask for help. Like, find someone. Type in CR. If you're struggling with anything, go to celebraterecovery.com and find one in your area. Like, at the very least, a CR class. Or at least reach out to someone online that you look up to. They may not have the answers, but you can talk to them. And that makes you feel so much better. It's like, if someone gets mad, I'm like, call me, talk to me. Let's figure this out. Reach out. You don't have to fight stuff alone. Like, this isn't a religion plug. It's not I know it's not like you're addicted to drug. I'm saying if you struggle with any mental health or stress, just reach out and talk to someone. Go sit at a bar, go sit at a restaurant with a buddy and just talk. He's going to be like, I don't have any answers for you, but, you know, we'll sit here and bullshit a little bit. That is worth its weight in gold, is just having someone to talk to. So I think a lot of these guys, I would say, especially in this industry, is, you know, they close up, they go home, and they go to sleep, and they start all over again. You know, it doesn't have to be that way. You can have a little bit of joy in your life and be happy. It doesn't have to always be 100 mile an hour and go to bed mad.
Yeah, and chances are higher than not, whatever you're experiencing in your life, there's somebody else out there who's either experiencing the same, has experienced it, or, like, struggles with that all the time.
Yeah, and when you learn that, when you realize you're not the only one with those issues, like men's groups have been so good to me because I realized that dads deal with the same issues that I deal with their kids, and dads deal with the same issues with their wife. Like all of a sudden it clicks, you're like, I'm not alone. Because how many nights do you go to bed thinking I'm the only guy that deals with this crap? Like I'm the only guy that gets yelled at for leaving a stroller out. To go in a room and have guys say, oh, my wife, I love her, but she did the same thing. I'm like, really? Yeah. Like, holy crap. Just knowing you're not alone is huge. I mean, it really is. And it takes a lot of balls to do that, to say that I need help. And, I'm the type that asks for help. Dad said it many times. He goes, I love how you ask for help. He goes, I love how you're open. I'm like, because I learned the first time how much it helps me. With other issues, I realized how much getting help, does for me and my family. And, I wasn't the best man for my family. It wasn't fair to them. They didn't sign up for this shit. So I felt, it was my obligation to become a better man for myself so they can get a return on their investment and enjoy me to my greatest capacity. But no, it's get help, man. Go talk to someone. That'll do you wonders.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people do kind of turn to this podcast to not feel so alone and not feel as if they're the only people fighting these fights and kind of battling these inner demons.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, I mean, I on a serious note, thanks for coming on and talking about it, because I know that you have a persona online that people think that you need to uphold. And that nothing's going to get to you, and like rough and tough beer drinking, ball busting, goofy guy. And then you realize, behind the scenes that there's a lot of people dealing with and battling shit that you don't know about. And I think that it's very important for people to come and tell their story, especially people like yourself, where it's going to open up a new side of you, which I think a lot of people may then look inward and decide to make some changes on their own, because not everything is what it appears at face value.
Yeah, it's no different than me always showing my mistakes. I was always a big advocate on showing your mistakes on Instagram, because more guys I get more benefit out of showing mistakes that I make, more DM and more, hey, thanks, man, for showing my mistakes. I've got no problem. I mean, this was so good for my life. If I can, which I know I have, I mean, that sounds kind of vain of me, but I know I've helped guys with just sharing my story with faith. And I'm not a preacher. I don't preach. I try to keep it light, but I know there's guys out there that just need that push. Like they just need to see one little sign, and then there's my dumbass on the story in the morning talking about God. They're like, there it is. Like they'll message me like, thanks, man, that's what I needed. I'm like, if that's the least I can do for one guy, if helping one guy loses 24,999 followers, but I help that one guy, it's awesome, dude. I love it. And I love helping. I love helping guys that are too stubborn to get help. And I can sense it when they need it. And if they reach out for anything, I'm like, this guy needs someone. He needs someone that I needed, a year ago or 6 months ago. So just know you're not alone. Like, this whole persona of being a man and being tough, and that's stupid, man. Just be a stand-up man. Ask for help. It can be so much better. You don't have to struggle through half the crap you're dealing with, I'm sure.
Yeah,
I'm pretty open.
The other thing, especially when you have a family, you have kids, you have a wife, and so often, and I'm sure John and Nick, you can attest to this, like we get into this routine where our wives are surviving and we're surviving, and we're like two separate ships surviving, and we're not working together.
Right.
And then, like the issues that I had with my wife where like we were together and then we kind of spread apart, and then realizing where I had pushed everyone away from me and how far I had, that when we come back, it's like we're a team now. And my life is so much better because I'm not just struggling to survive and keep my head above water. I have somebody next to me who's like either wading through the shit with me or helping, keep me up, which was it's amazing because life is really, really difficult and our jobs are really difficult, and having kids is really fucking difficult, and they're exhausting and they don't listen. And like going through that with somebody else who not only you love, who loves you back, and who will support you, regardless of, you know, where your relationship was, where it is, where it can be, just going through that with somebody is amazing. And you do lose sight of that throughout your marriage. And like, I had lost sight of that completely. And then when I kind of shook my head and was like, holy crap, like everything I'm looking for is actually right in front of me.
Yeah, no shit.
It's like my life is immeasurably better at this point and continues to get better with that relationship. And like all the whole time you're thinking that you're looking for something elsewhere, and it's like right fucking in front of you.
Yeah, open your eyes. Like that survive. You say surviving, but surviving is not living. Like we did years of surviving, and how we still made it through, I don't know. But like this is the first year I've actually lived, and I'm just like genuinely happy with who I am and who's around me. Like I know exactly what you're saying. I know that exact what you just explained is you just go through the motions, and it's just constant. You're treading water constantly. So to be able to finally lay on the beach feels pretty damn good.
Yeah. It takes a lot to clear your head.
Yes, it does.
It's not the easiest thing.
Get some help. No, good stuff.
All right, Nick and John.
No, I mean, that it's, you know, that's why I wanted to uncover it, and I wanted Jeffy to talk about it, because at the end of the day, you know, I haven't found what I look up to, but I have. And I'm thankful for the ability to kind of step back and remove myself and realize how little I am in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
And that, you know, I don't want to hold myself back. I don't want to hold my wife back. I don't want to hold my kids back. I don't want to hold the people that I work with back. But I also want to, you know, I want as much as we can work together and be the best version of ourselves.
Right.
And go after the best things for us as a family, as individuals. You know, that is, you know, that's enormously, you know, uplifting for me.
Yeah.
It's something that, you know, every day when it is a struggle, I realize that, you know, I'm reading this book. I've mentioned it before, on leadership. You know, it's a Harvard Business Review book, and in it, it will stick with me forever. And it says, but the best leaders, and this goes for professional and personal, focus on opportunity, not the problem.
Right.
And it's, you know, and ever since I've read that, and as silly as that sounds, it's like, you know, I realized that I kept focusing on problems.
The best officer, he was a colonel at the time, really one of the only officers I've ever really liked in the military, said, about the biggest takeaway from the military I got is he said, be part of the solution, not the problem. And I was like, damn, that's good. Like, it's so simple, and everyone should just think that, but no one does. Like, everyone wants to dwell on the problem. No, just be part of the solution, get over it, go to the next. Like, and there's issues. Like, everyone always says, oh, there's going to be issues from now to the day you die. It's how you handle those issues. It's not family issues never stop. Work issues never going to stop. Issues with your wife, issues with the kids, just handle them. Learn how to handle them better. Right. Issues are going to be from now until forever. It's how you handle those. And if you can step out, whether it's religion or just throughout the world, is look at the big picture, like who's in charge, what's in charge, whatever you go to. Mine's religion. Who's in charge? God's in charge. This has nothing to do with me. Let's just let it go. Issues are always going to be there, no matter what. It's how we deal with them and how we choose to deal with them, whether we do or not. You know, some of them you say, oh, I'm not going to associate myself with this. This is not. I don't care about this. Why am I wasting my energy on this crap? So yeah, no, I get that quote, and that was one of the really good ones I took away from my time in.
That's awesome, man.
I actually, like I said, this is all news to me. I didn't realize that this was going on. You're obviously not coming up in my algorithm, but like,
just unmute my story. You might see, asshole.
No, I'd have to check.
It's fine.
But I usually I feel like I sit back a lot on podcasts and I chime in with some dry humor every now and then, but you have me feeling so good right now, like the conversation and just engage, that I'm sorting through receipts. Yo, my neighbor's peeking in the window. I'm sorting through receipts from I'm all the way back to last April at this point. No. Yeah, last April. That have been
Nice.
sitting on my windowsill. So, like, you've given me the motivation. And these sit here every single week. Every single podcast, these are here. But I'm just like, I'm feeling so good that I want to get something done.
You've talked a lot, and Johnny's barely talked about himself. This is weird.
I know. Seriously.
He's either frozen or pissed. One of the two.
No,
Oh, there he is.
I'm good, baby.
I thought he was frozen too.
Yeah. No, I mean, I don't know. I guess wrapping up, your life is more than your business. I mean, J.Him Woodworking is not my identity. I mean, it was my identity forever. But when I finally learned that I have a life and I need to focus more attention on it other than work, man, you'll shift a gear and just brought me a whole lot more happiness, I guess.
Yeah, I had some things come into our lives recently with, like, my wife's father's health and stuff where it's, like, opened up our summer to not being able to commit to anything.
Right.
And I'm just, like, I basically, okay, you can go potty. Just shut that door. No, everyone can't come in here. It's like all the neighbors' kids. That I'm like I'm allowing myself for the first time in 11 years of having a business to say, I don't care what my customers think. There's more important things in my life right now. And it feels really good. And I have a reason and an excuse other than myself just wanting to do it for the first time, that if anyone has an issue with it, I can go tell them to take a hike.
Yeah, right.
And it's just put a lot into perspective for me, for us, that, like, I need to be there for them right now. And that's way more important than me starting a job or me finishing a job or me making sure that this material comes in or this is the way that it needs to be or this customer's happy, because there is a lot more to life than business.
And I think a lot of guys say that. They always say, oh, family first, or like,
Yeah.
but they don't actually, like, as I told Heather, I said, I will, like, with the newborn, I said, anytime you need help, I said, just tell me you need to come home. Like, I will shut everything up just to come home to hold a baby. Like, that's what you do. Like, that is the most important thing. I could be loading up to go deliver furniture or have a payday. Do not care. Like, if my family needs me, I am there no matter what. And it took a long time to figure that out. And I think especially when you're just starting out, like, you think you need to be, I was 24/7, 365. I wanted to be in the shop every day. You will not catch me down here. I'll work a Saturday morning if I need to or if I want to, but you will not catch me down here on a Sunday. You won't catch me working here after 5 o'clock, and I normally don't get here before 6. But how important that time is, from it's usually about 4:30 the rest of the evening, that's more important than anything that could ever go on in the shop. So I refuse to work long hours. If I'm down here on a Sunday, there is something that has to go out Monday morning, but I will not work on a Sunday. It's just, there's so many more things that are important. On your deathbed, they're not going to say, man, he worked every Sunday. He was a great guy. No one says that. They say, no, Jeff, he was in the pool with his kids on Sunday afternoon, or, he took them camping on Saturday. That's all that matters. This shit's just fluff. This just pays the bills. I love it. Don't get me wrong. I love what I do. I genuinely love what I do. It does not matter. Nothing matters. None of this crap matters. It's just wood and equipment and building. Like, my legacy, hopefully, is being built at home and, in my four walls. And that sounds so freaking cheesy, and I know, but it's the truth. I mean, that's all that, my kids and my wife is all that matter to me. I mean, and to be able to actually say that and mean it wholeheartedly, finally.
Yeah, most people just get the family tattoo.
Yeah, right.
So you can, like, turn upside down. It says something like friends or something when you turn upside down.
Family forever. No, family forever, yeah. But no, to actually do it, to actually walk the walk is, man, it's great. I love it. It's awesome, man. Good stuff.
Good for you.
Yeah, it's work in progress every day.
Jeff, appreciate you being so open, man.
Yeah, I'm an open book. You know that.
I know.
I'm sure I got some good story highlights on it somewhere if you need to send them my way. But.
Yeah, I crossed out the 14-year-olds in the pickup.
Yeah.
Figured I'd use a different one.
Whatever.
All right, dude.
Good stuff.
Well, appreciate you being on again, being so open, and super happy to hear that things are going so well.
Yeah. Glad he had me. J.Him Woodworking. I need YouTube subscribers. Go to YouTube. No, I don't care.
YouTube.
YouTube sucks. It's hard. All right. Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate it.
Thanks, man. Good luck with everything.
Cheers, man.
Do I
Tell
just
Jimmy
leave
he
this-
can keep going.
Do I just leave this open?
You can just hit that hang up button, and
All
it's going to let you know that your file is, you're about 1,000 megabytes away from being uploaded. So.
Okay, so just hang up.
Whatever that
Yep,
means.
and it will tell you to just wait until it hits
You
100%.
hang up first. No, you.
I think you
No,
definitely.
you hang up. See ya. Gotta go.
Cheers.
Deep call.
My kids just came over with the neighbors, and they like all came in saying they had to pee, and then went in and got snacks out of the kitchen.
Nice.
Liars.
That's what they wanted. Snacks.
Liars.
Seriously.
My son at the dinner table. I fall. Okay. Can I have a snack?
Exactly.
Yep.
You get done dinner, 10 minutes later, I'm hungry. You
like,
didn't
why
eat
didn't you eat
dinner.
dinner?
Of course you're hungry.
Yeah, because I was full.
Can I have a snack?
want-
No, you can have dinner.
I just want a pop and some fishies.
Well, that was heavy.
It was. I feel like I mean, I wanted to talk about it and have it be out in the open because he did talk about it a little on social media, and I feel like when he did, he was obviously defending his decision to do it, and probably due to the feedback that he was getting, and just give him the platform to kind of just talk openly about it. Because I mean, at the end of the day, it's like I said, it's, you know, I'm not a religious person, but I do feel as though I've made efforts in myself as a man, as he would put it, to separate myself from what I can and cannot control. Guys, you know where to find us. The Modern Craftsman on Instagram. Let us know how we're doing in the Survey Monkey. If we're doing well, hit us up on iTunes. Hit us with a 5-star review. Keep us in the top spot for our industry. And as always, this podcast is brought to you by Duration Moulding and Millwork. With response time and consistent quality like no other in the industry, Duration Moulding and Millwork continues to push the envelope of poly-ash standard offerings for the trade. Now, users can obtain standard trim material that measures 15/16 thick by a full 18 inches wide and 16 foot in length. Ideal for those unique applications where a wide and long trim piece is needed to avoid seams. Think fascia. To learn more about Duration Poly-Ash products, please visit their website at durationmillwork.com.